Going to call the meeting to order. The town meeting, May 17th, 2021. We're going to start as I normally do. If I could ask everyone to please rise, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hi, everybody. The new moderator. In case anybody doesn't know me, my name is Bert Gaynor, and bear with me tonight. We're going to have all kinds of fun. All right, let's start this off.
All right. Mr. Moderator, I motion to pass over, included below, that will be taken. I move that the town vote to pass over Articles 8, 10, 13, 42, 51, and 52.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second to pass over on Articles 8, 10, 13, 42, 51, and 52. All those in favor, please signify by raising your green placard.
42. 51 and 52.
Motion passes to pass over the articles previously mentioned.
Ask if there are any opposed.
I'm sorry?
Ask if there are any opposed.
Oh, all those opposed, please raise up your red placard. One opposed. Okay. Does everybody please have their green and red card with them if they're out in the lobby if you need to get them?
I know. Quickly, too. Yeah. Yay. I'm so excited. That'd be nice. I'd even do 9:30. I got this a little bit. Correct. I'm going to call it again.
Good. She's going to call it again.
I think it's faster, too. You got it. You can do it.
Okay, we'll move on to Article 31, where we left off on our last meeting.
Okay. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $32,000 to purchase a document management, digitization, e-permitting workflow system, including but not limited to hardware, software, and any associated costs.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept Article 31 as read. Can I get a recommendation from the Finance Committee, please?
Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. The article was proposed by the Data Processing Department. Is somebody from the would like to speak to that?
I'll speak to that, Bert.
Mr. Gordon?
So we went out, we had multiple bids. This was the lowest bid that came back that will allow us to start to digitize the public records at Town Hall and to allow for e-permitting and start a workflow that will allow the residents a faster process and more streamlined.
Yes, if we should know I think we all know the procedure. If you want to come up, just identify yourself and your address, please, and any questions will be addressed through the moderator, and I will find you an answer, hopefully.
Okay. This is Amy Troop, 10 Hillside Ave. Other towns who have done this haven't done the whole file into the scan file, and it creates problems. Do we have any guidelines on making sure that the entire folder is scanned in for each department, each property?
Mr. Andrews, would you like to address that, please?
I don't have the answer for what the workflow is going to be for scanning, but if that's an issue that the town wants to do, then I'm for that. I think all the files in that folder should be scanned and put on for public record. That was the intent of when I asked for this to be looked into.
Perfect. I think that it would definitely be good because another town, Board of Health filed an email for it due to COVID, and they only sent over one document. And knowing that a certificate of compliance was also given by the town, that was not in the file, and we couldn't get it. We had to go to the repairer to get it, and I find that to be a little bit, just some snag to look at, so that I would have to make sure that everything would be scanned.
Okay, seeing no indication for further discussion, all those in favor of the article, please signify by raising your green signs. And all those opposed, please raise the red sign. The article passes.
Article 44,
That's me. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $6,500 to purchase and install an OSHA-required mezzanine gate at the highway barn.
second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor to accept Article 44. Do I have a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
Okay, this was proposed by the Municipal School Building Committee. Anybody here would like to speak to that? Yes, Mr. Joy.
Jerry Joy, Christmas Tree Lane. I am a member of the Building and Maintenance Committee. Now that we're going with the guidelines for OSHA, rules and regulations, we need to put a safety gate up on the upper floor. Storage in the above office area no longer used without a safety gate, so the rules now tell us that we have to have one. Sliding gate creates an opening to allow heavy equipment to reach the upper deck, and that allows us to store more equipment. It's more efficient. The equipment being inside instead of leaving it outside will get damaged through rain, sun, what have you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing no indication of further discussion, I'll call for a voice vote.
Mr. Moderator.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, didn't see you. Yes, Amy.
Hi, Amy Troop again. I just wanted to make sure that we've gotten bids on this and what they were, and that we won't have to pay architecture fees or structural fees next year when we haven't completed this, or if we haven't completed this.
Jerry, would you like to address that, please?
We did receive bids on this project. To the engineering part of it, I can't answer that question right now. But this is something that's going to be happening a lot because we are now under the OSHA regulations. So a lot of things in the town that do not meet the OSHA standards, we're going to have to upgrade. So this is just the first one that you're going to come across. But there's going to be quite a few more.
Okay.
And then what were the bids?
Unfortunately, I do not have a copy of all the bids. I just have the winning bid that we had.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Your name and address, sir.
John Bedeau, 165 Walnut. I just have a question. How big is the opening that we're going to be covering with the gate? And then there are railings on the current mezzanine, correct?
Mr. Joy, do you have any information on that, please?
I don't have information on that there, but I'd like to ask Steve if he could answer that.
Mr. Haywood?
Steve Hayward, the highway surveyor. What happened was OSHA came in, they noticed we had some 2x4s over the rail. That's what we moved to go up and down to put stuff upstairs. And not OSHA regulated, so it's OSHA regulated, so we have to fix it by putting this gate up. I mean, I don't know what else people want to know. It's just, it's basic. You have to do what OSHA says, basically.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Karen Favor, 66 Clyde Bosworth. My question
Sorry,
is...
ma'am, I can barely hear you. If you can move a little closer, thank you.
There you go. Karen Favor, 66 Clyde Bosworth Road, and my question regarding the engineering. So do we know if engineering is required, and is this enough money that's been set in this article if there is engineering needed? We don't want to eat up the money just on engineering. So could someone please answer that if it is a requirement? I understand the OSHA part of it.
Mr. Haywood or Mr. Joy, if you care to respond to that.
It's my understanding that the $6,500 includes everything for the installation.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Vietnami, 201 Cranberry Drive. Question I have is, do the bids certify that it will meet the OSHA regulations when it's done so that there won't be any engineering required? Is one question. And the second one I have, if all of this is coming up and we got all these other OSHA regulations we got to meet, should we not package these together and find a better way to look at this? Maybe an engineer to do it all at once rather than do this bits and pieces? Not against it, just the idea that, we got to find out if the contract number one, when it's done, will meet the OSHA guidelines, which means we don't need the engineering. That's the question.
Mr. Joy?
Bert, can you hear better now? He turned it up.
On the OSHA guidelines, I believe that we've done a survey, or I'm not sure if the survey's been completed.
Thank you.
Of all the buildings. But there are items that are going to come up when you go to do a repair or go to find something and it's not OSHA required. So we would have to go out and get bids for every single item that are out there and trying to bundle them. One might be plumbing, one might be electrical, one might be like the Sierra safety gate. I don't think it's something that we can do at this time and bundle them all together, come up with one price. It's something that we're going to have to do as we come across the item. If we have to do repairs to it, that'll be the time to do it.
To the moderator.
Bert asking.
Yes, sir.
And what was the first question? I'm sorry.
Come to the microphone.
Have him come to the microphone.
Oh, yes, it will definitely meet OSHA requirements. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Joy. Yes, ma'am. Seem to have difficulty hearing with the sound system, if maybe we can do something. Any other discussion? Seeing no indication of further discussion, I'll call for a vote on Article 44 as presented. All those in favor, please hold up your green cards. And all those opposed, please hold up your red cards.
Motion passes.
The article passes.
26,
Two-thirds, Bert. On 26.
46 or 26?
Okay, Article 26 is going to require a two-thirds vote. Someone could read the
she
article?
is at the
Yes.
mic.
Hi. Your name, please?
Yep, Paula Hatch, Oak Place, Chair of Silver Lake Regional School Committee. To see a motion to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $105,000 for reconstruction of the tennis courts at the Silver Lake Regional School District or take their action thereof.
Okay, the recommendation from the Finance Committee, please?
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Gordon, over here.
Does
Bert.
not recommend?
The Finance Committee does not recommend.
Okay, would you like to speak to the article, please?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Gordon.
Was the motion?
No. Wrong motion. She read the wrong motion.
I was going to ask if the maker of the motion would allow a friendly amendment to what was read.
Is there, did you make a motion to do that?
I would move that the town vote to transfer from the general stabilization fund the sum of $105,000 for reconstruction of the tennis courts at Silver Lake Regional School District.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Yes, Mr. Andrews.
It was just to clarify where the money would be coming from on the motion,
The funding source.
on the funding source.
Would you care to speak to that?
Yes, and thank you, Gordon. Speaking to the article, the Silver Lake School Committee brought forth this article, as well as the ones we voted last week, after careful thought, consideration, and debate by its members and the school administration. We ask and expect the taxpayers of the town to hear requests and listen to honest comments and feedback by town officials based on the town's ability to fund our needs. This is how town government should work. It has come to my attention that a member of the Finance Committee is purposely undermining the article and budget requests made by our committee. This member boasted on social media that, and I quote,
Ma'am, could you address the article?
I am addressing the article, actually. I threw the existing Silver Lake School Committee under the bus enough, and will be doing it again tonight when the tennis courts come up. For a town official to purposely undermine the efforts of another committee is deceitful, misleading to the voting taxpayers present, and completely unethical. Doing so to the Regional School Committee is a disservice to both the towns of Kingston and Plimpton as well. Being a member of the Finance Committee is a position of influence. Misuse of this influence cannot be tolerated, and that member should consider stepping down. Now, regarding the article specifically, the tennis courts are in very poor condition. The tennis courts themselves have big gaping gashes and separations of the tennis court material. It's actually peeling up. They will actually not be playable in the condition they are in this year.
Okay, thank you.
Finance Committee.
Can you hold on one second, ma'am? Where there was a change in the funding, I'd like to ask the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee does not recommend.
Does not.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Karen Favor again. I just have a question. When we change the funding, does that change the two-thirds vote? I think that people just need to know that,
It's
if it does.
Because it's stabilization, it's 2/3.
I've been informed that because it's stabilization, it would require a
I
two-thirds
thought we
vote.
just changed it to general.
It was anticipated, I think, initially that it was going to be stabilization, and that's why I suggested to the moderator that it was a 2/3 vote in the first instance. It came out as general funding, however, it was then changed, and therefore the 2/3 is what the threshold for voting is.
So it still needs two-thirds?
It is, yes,
the way it is?
stabilization, 2/3.
Okay, and then just how old are the tennis courts, if someone could answer that?
I'll see if I can find out. Do you have that information, ma'am?
Yeah, because of conflicting meetings tonight with Kingston, I don't have the exact response to that, but I believe they're 15 to 20 years old. We redid them when we did the schools, actually. They're out of warranty period right now.
Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Jeff Bolger, Brandeis Circle. I'm just interested in this, your motion. Doesn't that require a vote of the town people? And if it doesn't, are you making that motion solely to avoid the two-thirds vote?
Mr. Andrews, would you like to end that? But I understand it would still require a two-thirds vote. But if Mr. Andrews will address that.
Gordon Andrews, 244 Elm Street. when the motion was read, it was read as raise and appropriate or transfer from available source. So that didn't pick the source of the funding. So that's why I asked to move it to say that it's from the General Stabilization Fund, which would require a 2/3 vote. So that was to line up with what was said previously, that it would require a 2/3 vote.
Great, thank you, sir. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Just a couple. We do use the tennis courts for phys ed class, and we do have a tennis team that uses them. The public actually is allowed to use them as well. And again, remember, even though these reside in the town of Kingston, they are assets of all three towns. The one other thing I would ask is, a number of years ago, we returned funds to the towns because we had met our E&D deposit threshold. That money was earmarked by the town for capital needs of the school going forward. We've never tapped into that, and I'm just wondering perhaps where that money is now.
Sandy, you might be able to help us out. Oh, yes, sir. Could you help us out with that question? Sandy?
So that is the source of the money. Back when we split from Pembroke, and Pembroke, the court order gave all that money back to Silver Lake. Silver Lake hit their E&D threshold, and money was sent back to each town. We got approximately $312,000 back. We put it into the stabilization fund with the idea that we would keep that specially earmarked for Silver Lake capital expenditures. So when this article came up, the suggestion was to use that money from the stabilization account for this expense. So that would be $105,000 from the stabilization account, but it's actually from the $312,000 that we had earmarked for it.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
I'm Dot Lamoureux from 32 Parkwood Drive. Is the 105 the total amount from all three towns, or is that just the amount that Halifax's portion?
I'll see if I can find that out. Mr. Andrews, can you answer that? Or?
That's Halifax portion.
Yes, please.
Yes, that is Halifax portion to reconstruct the tennis courts.
Yes, sir.
Gordon Laws, 33 Highland Circle. Just for the information of the town, this is not presented as an option to repair or replace. It's presented solely as an option to replace. I assume there must be information on what a cost would have been to repair or what options there would have been. Could you comment on that and why you reached the conclusions that you did to replace entirely, what the difference in lifespan would have been, and so forth? That's question number one. Question number two is, if the lifespan of the present tennis courts has not gone, say, the same length as what we would typically expect, then why would that have been? Did we not maintain them up to this point such that we're in the position that we're in at present?
Yes, ma'am. Would you like to address that, please?
Yes, sure. The cost to kind of Band-Aid repair, and I'll get that number for you in a moment. It's back at my chair. That is only for a guarantee or warranty period of 2 to 5 years, whereas reconstructing is going to be a warranty of 15 to 20. And unfortunately, like so many buildings and equipment and things of that nature, 15 to 20 seems to be the threshold of use before you have to do some expensive maintenance or replacement, and that's where we are with the tennis courts right now. And I'm sorry, Gordon, what was the last part of your question?
if our lifespan has not been, say, the typical lifespan, have we had difficulty allocating money to take care of the maintenance or the repairs along the way that would have gotten us the lifespan?
Yeah, no, these are apparently the lifespan of the tennis court materials, et cetera, 15, 20 years, and then just because of weather and play and what happens underground, below the courts themselves, that's when you need to start to do some serious repair and maintenance or replacement, which, again, is what we're looking for. And I'll get you the amount that we would be funding to repair in just a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Christine Haley, 70 Ridge Road, and I also work at Silver Lake Regional. The temporary repair costs are about $130,000, and it was more in the range of 3-ish years was the time frame that would take care of it. The 15 to 20 years is the general life of tennis courts, and we have actually resurfaced them previously. We had somewhere right around 7 years we had to resurface them, and we did do that work.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
The $340,000 is the total for the whole project. The $130,000 is the total for just the fix for the whole project. Not just Halifax's portion, that's the whole cost.
Yes, Mrs. Glenn.
Hi, Jean Gallant, Cranberry Drive. So as the town accountant said that money is already in the stabilization fund, and it is earmarked for capital projects for Silver Lake. Can the Finance Committee talk about why they decided not to recommend this article?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Sure, I could talk about this. The actual vote was a 2-2 tie. And I can let everybody talk about why they decided one way or the other. We were shown 2 quotes, one for repair, one for replace. Nobody on the Finance Committee argues that the work doesn't, like at least a repair job doesn't need to be done. We were shown pictures and it's clear that work does need to be done, whether or not the town votes to do a replace or a fix, that's up to them. We were only given the option to vote on a total replacement cost, which is basically 2.5 times the amount of a replacement, a fix. The other concern that I had was the fact that the quotes were from November 3rd, 2020, and as we've seen time and time again, the town seems to be concerned about coming back and asking for money at a later point. So there is some concern with basically presenting numbers that are 8 months old.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else? Yes.
Amy Troop. Fred, do we have knowledge that if the other 2 towns vote to do this, that we are going to have to anyways?
Mr. Andrews, do we have?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Maybe you can help with that.
Christine Healy again. Plimpton voted for it. Kingston does not vote until Saturday.
Do you know about Plimpton?
Plimpton voted for it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay,
think the
seeing
question is to him.
no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 20.
Is somebody there?
Yes, sorry, I missed you. My bad.
Okay, B. Johnson, Plymouth Street. How much is each other town putting into this? And going forward, I'm hearing a lot about each department getting bids for certain projects, yet when they're asked to give us specs on that, we're not getting them. Going forward, if a town presents a need, is there any way that they could bring a paper out at the table there, listing the bids and how much they were and who they're from?
I'll see if I could find that out. Yes, please.
I can answer question number 1. The other towns are paying according to their percentage of enrollment at the region. Plimpton voted for $41,000. So I guess Kingston's in the 150 range. 157, I believe, is their amount. If those three numbers add up, 157, 104, and then 41.
Okay, thank you. I have a gentleman in the back, please.
John Bedell, Walnut Street. I'm just curious with this project, it's rather large. Does it involve more than just doing the tennis courts? Are they putting fencing up, any other, new nets, or is it just strictly resurface?
Try to find out.
Based on my understanding, it is resurfacing the tennis courts. The fencing is already in place. I am not sure about the, I forgot the word, the netting. So I can't answer that piece.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
To the Finance Committee's question on the bidding, one of the concerns he articulated was that globally right now, raw material prices have soared and commodities are up and so forth. And so do we have an actual locked-in bid? So is this actually the fixed cost? Or would that have to be rebid based on current commodities prices? So that's question number one. Question number two is thinking over, say, a 10 to 15-year life. If we're talking about a repair that extends the life for 3 or 4 years, and then we're going to have to go through go through a complete reconstruction again, if we compare that with what was stated previously, that about 7 years we had to repave it, the warranty on a 15-year or 20-year court is that repaving part of the warranty, and if it's not part of the warranty and we have to figure on in about 7 years repaving it again, what was the expense last time of having to repave it?
I'll see if I can find out. Yes, please.
I'm going to try and answer some of that. Going back to the question from the Finance Committee a few moments ago about why we decided to go a complete reconstruction instead of the Band-Aid. Again, we don't want to be coming back to the town in 2 to 5 years having this discussion again. Going out 15 or 20 years for $105,000 for Halifax's portion seems to make much more sense. The work that we would have done, the warranty would cover the courts for that period of time, and it is a 15 to 20 year warranty. So if something happens, the company that we're using comes back in and they fix it for us. And we've tightened the process around the warranties for all of the big dollar work we have done at the schools now. We have the warranties scanned onto our system. All the administrators, Matt Durkee, our Director of Facilities, everybody has access to them. So when we need to get warranty work done, there's no wondering, there's no questioning. 5 years, 10 years from now, when staff has turned over, you're going to be able to go online and see that warranty, who to contact, and what's covered. And that's an enhancement, quite frankly, to the process that had been in place before. This bid is good for the work that we are describing. It isn't changing, and then I fully understand the concept of construction work, et cetera, going astronomically sky high. This is a bid that will cover the work that we need done to utilize the courts.
Mr.
Thank
Moderator?
you. Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly Kavicki, Plymouth Street. My question is, the young lady just stated that the 105 will absolutely cover what she's asking for, even though we've seen a gigantic jump in raw material and other materials due to the pandemic. My question is, in the bid, is there a quote from the contractor that says that they're going to rise prices if it's going to cost them more? Because I highly doubt that any contractor is willing to lose money, because we may not have done our homework. And I just want to make sure before I vote that the town understands that it is 100% locked in at 105, and that there isn't anything within the contract that states that they absolutely can raise, and that they may have to come back to us.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I would like to address that.
Yes, sir.
What we were presented were two estimates by Activatus, which is an engineering firm. The very first line on there states that due to the unprecedented nature of cost, that they can't guarantee the amounts. And again, this is just an engineering firm estimate. It wasn't like from a contractor saying, this is going to be the fixed amount. This was from an engineering firm back in November 3rd of 2020, with the first line stating that this estimate might be completely out the window due to the unprecedented increase in cost. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I decided that again, it needs to be done, but I wasn't given the option of actually doing a repair, which, yes, even if that cost is higher, it's not going to be as much, you're not going to be overpaying as much as you would be right now for a full replacement. So to me, it made more sense to do the fix and then let costs adjust themselves back down to where they want to be, and we come back and deal with this in 3 to 4 years. That's how I, again, approached it. It wasn't that I said, oh, they don't need to do this. The courts are in terrible shape. Don't get me wrong, they're bad. I just didn't like the fact that we didn't have a choice. It wasn't like they gave us a choice of here's a repair and a replace. It was basically, here's a replace, and we have 7% unemployment because of COVID, and I've got seniors whose rents are going up. I wasn't given the option. If we were given the option to do the repair, I'm pretty sure we would have all voted unanimously for that.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you for your honesty to town meeting, Fred.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. I'll get to you next, sir.
I just have one last question, and that is regarding the engineering fees. How much of this bid is for engineering versus the actual cost to replace?
I'll try to find out for you. Do we have an answer for that?
Unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that I do not know how much of that was for the fees for that. I do not know how that estimate was broken down. What I did want to say is that when we were looking at this, we have a committee that's called the Facilities Committee that looks at all these items. And when they had reviewed it, the 3 years was $130,000 for the repair, or $340,000, which gave us 20 years for the tennis court. So that's why we chose the replacement versus the repair. But I'm sorry, I don't have the breakdown of the estimate that was done by the engineering firm. And when they provided it, they were doing an assessment of all of our athletic facilities, and that was one of the items that they were able to quantify for us based on their experience, because they do actually work on many of those projects.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. This gentleman.
Hi, Van Donnelly. I want to thank one of the ladies for bringing the question about escalation clause in the contract. That was helpful. The second thing I would ask is, has anyone asked about extended warranties? The issue is when jobs like this go out to bid, a lot of time you can put 2, 5, 10-year extended warranty, whatever it is in there, and don't put the price in for that. Because it seems like we're always talking about what the time this fails or so on. But if we do that, a lot of times the person building it will put in higher grade materials in order that they're going to warranty it for a longer period of time. So the option to the town to have some kind of 2, 5-year additional extended warranty from what they were offering. Has anybody looked at that?
Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Chris Winowitz, 129 Circuit Street. Are these asphalt courts or are they post-tension concrete, which usually last twice as long?
I'll see if I can find out for you. Christine, would you know that?
I was going to say I will text and try to get the answer from our facilities director, but it looks like Gordon may be doing that, but I will try also. Oh, he is doing it.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to come back to this point because I feel like there were two different answers given, and I don't think that they're reconciled. The question was, is the bid locked in? Will this actually cover everything? The answer I heard over here is that yes, this will cover everything. The answer I heard over here is this is what an engineer estimates, and that the documentation he saw specifically says subject to, you know, cement prices or commodities prices or something like that. And somehow I think I'd like to hear that reconciled for sure.
See if I can find out. Christine?
Price that we have does not commit that it will not exceed that price. So I don't have that information. They have not locked in saying this is the price and that's it. They have not made that qualifier.
So, yes, sir.
Here, to be clear, we may or very likely have to rebid it. Is that accurate?
The amount that has been presented has not been bid. The cost for going to bid would be an additional 15 to 20 just to get all the specifications done right now. And because there was so much uncertainty, we did not go through that process. We had an evaluation of our full athletic facilities, and that was one of the components that we asked them to look at, and they were able to come up with a price for us. And as they had mentioned, they do many projects like this, so they're familiar with those pitfalls. I know right now we're in unprecedented times, but they are familiar with those pitfalls, so we were relying on their estimates for us.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no yes, ma'am, almost.
Pam Engstrom, 65 Pond Street. I just wanted to comment, you know, there is concern about the costs of the materials going up, but that's going to be either way. So whether it's a repair or a replace, you know, there's that potential. And where there is the $325,000 that's already in that account slated for a capital project, you know, the funds are there. So I just wanted to highlight, you know, it's not just an increase if we're replacing, it could be potentially for both. So I think if we look at the length of time, that if it's just a repair, it could be 5 years, and if we replace, you know, 15 at the low end, we're still saving money by doing the full replace, is how I see it.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
David Marcio, 1610th. How many tennis courts are we putting in? 3. 5? 4? 5. Okay, just...
Your question, sir.
How many tennis courts are we putting in?
5. Thank you. Mr. Andrews?
Mr. Moderator, Gordon Andrews, 244 Elm Street. I just got off the phone with Mr. Durkee, the facilities director. So it's 5 tennis courts. They are asphalt tennis courts. This is to basically remove what's existing and rebuild them.
Thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article number 26, again requiring a 2/3 vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise your green card, and all those opposed, please raise your red card. I see it as fails.
Your call.
Article fails.
Article 47.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, Pam Ducey, Treasurer Collector. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund the sum of $20,000 to be added to the unemployment compensation account.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second regarding Article 47.
Finance Committee recommends.
Recommendation?
We recommend.
Okay. Yes, Pam, would you like to speak to that, please?
So we're putting money into the unemployment for the upcoming year.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no indication of further discussion on Article 47, all those in favor say aye by raising your green card, please. And all those opposed, please raise your red card. Motion passes.
Article 14.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance a sum of $150 for the use of trustees to the County Cooperative Extension Service and authorize the selectmen to appoint a town director within 15 days as provided in Chapter 128, Section 41 of Mass General Laws.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept Article 13. May I get the recommendation from the Finance Committee, please?
The Finance Committee recommends.
Okay, would someone from the Board of Selectmen like to comment on that?
It's basically, we're getting to the Extension Service for 4-H and other agricultural needs the town has.
Any other further discussion? Seeing no indication of further discussion, voting on Article 13, all those in favor say aye by raising your green card.
Bert,
14. I'm sorry, what?
14.
14. 14. Sorry, Article 14. All those in favor, please raise your green card. All those opposed, please raise your red card. Article passes unanimously.
18.
Sorry. Proposed by the Chief of Police. So, someone like to read that?
Troy, do you want to read that one?
I'm sorry, what was that?
18.
18.
Move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $110,000 to purchase and equip miscellaneous police equipment, 2 new marked police vehicles to use for patrol.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to accept Article 18. The recommendation from the Finance Committee, please.
Finance Committee recommends.
Okay, Chief, would you like to speak to this, please? Yes,
sir. Chief Shavs, Police Department. So this article would give us $110,000 to purchase and equip 2 miscellaneous police cruisers. I'm sorry, with miscellaneous equipment, 2 new marked police cruisers to be used for patrol. We've been doing this the program since fiscal 10. It's worked really well. The cruisers, once they go offline, are traded down into other town departments. So basically, they're hybrid models. So the estimates are that we're saving about 1,000 gallons a year in fuel costs. We're going with the hybrid models.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
In favor? I think it's a great idea. I was originally a proponent of this one on the Finance Committee to save maintenance costs, which was eating up our reserve fund. My question on this is why the language has been changed from what it was originally. It used to read that we would either sell or trade in the other vehicles, and now we see vehicles in town just popping up, and they're not sold and they're not traded in. So I want to know where these vehicles are going before we vote.
See if I can find out. Chief Shavs?
Last year, we traded 1 vehicle in, and then the other vehicle went into Town Hall to be used for inspectional services, Board of Health, and other divisions. This year, I believe both cruisers are going to be traded in.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Can we modify the language back to how it was, that they'll be traded or sold?
See if I can find out. Chief Shavs?
I don't know if that's my purview. I'd have to ask the board or the moderator or the attorney possibly.
So if,
If you're talking to amend, you have to put that on the floor. Whether or not it can be amended is a different question.
Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was discussing.
Then I make a motion to amend the article to read.
Yes, you
selling.
can.
And I make that
And you have to
motion.
make a motion to amend it to what, ma'am?
To the vehicles being sold or traded, both.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? It's a motion and a second on the floor to amend the article to include a trade-in. Is that, do I get that correct? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what she said.
Trade or sell?
Trade or sell. I have a motion and a second to amend the article to read trade or sell. I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor?
Mr. Moderator?
Indicate, yes.
It's to trade or sell the replacement vehicles that these are being bought to replace, correct?
I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by raising a green flag, saying aye. All those opposed, raise the red flag, please. The motion is amended. Okay, so now we have a motion and a second amended on the floor. Yes.
I just wanted to ask a question about how the hybrids are working versus the gas vehicles that we used to have. Are we having major problems with them or anything of that nature that we should second guess getting hybrids versus the gas vehicles?
Chief, could you address that, please?
Yeah, the hybrids have been working well. There was an initial getting used to because once they go into idle, looks like they feels like the vehicle is stopping. The guys are used to it now. We've had no major mechanical problems with them, and our goal is to switch everything over to the hybrids again, trying to be environmental friendly with our vehicles.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, seeing no indication of further discussion, I'll ask for a vote on Article 18 as amended. All those in favor, please indicate aye by raising the green flag. Thank you, and all those opposed, please raise the red flag. Motion passes as amended.
Article 54. 5-4. Right, point of order. Just call it point of order.
Correct. What page are we on?
Somebody's asking for a point of order.
A point of order, I'm sorry, yes.
Shirley,
Who had the point of order question, please come to the floor, to the mic, please. I'll be with you in a minute, ma'am. There's a point of order.
hear well. I don't know what you...
Okay, well, I'll be with you in 1 minute. Yes, thank you. So I couldn't hear you before on your point of order.
It could have been just that the echoes in my old hearing.
Your name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Allison Long at 186 Monpont Street. But I thought that what we just did was we voted to amend. But we didn't yet vote on the thing as a whole.
Yes, we did, ma'am. We voted in favor of the amendment, and then we voted on the article as amended.
Sorry, the echoes.
Thank you. Okay, Article 54. Yes, ma'am.
I move to see if the town will vote to adopt the following ban on the sale of miniature single-use containers for alcoholic beverages as a general bylaw and to insert into the code of the town of Halifax, Massachusetts as Chapter 54-4, the sale of alcoholic beverages in containers less than or equal to 100 milliliters within the town of Halifax, effective January 1st, 2022.
Do I have a motion to
That's
accept
it.
Article 54 as read?
Second.
Yeah. 54. Chapter, make it a part of our bylaw, chapter 55, section 4.
Just possible one correction. It should be Massachusetts as Chapter 55-4.
I don't know what you're saying.
It should be 55-4.
Chapter 55-4.
Yes, you said 54. So it should be 55.
Should I reread it, the whole thing?
Sure, please do.
Sorry. I move to see if the town will vote to adopt the following ban on the sale of miniature single-use containers for alcoholic beverages as a general bylaw and to insert into the code of the town of Halifax, Massachusetts as Chapter 55-4. The sale of alcoholic beverages in containers less than or equal to 100 milliliters within the town of Halifax, effective January 1st, 2022.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Finance Committee recommendation, please.
The Finance Committee did not recommend.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kraft, would you like to address the article, please?
Can I speak?
You could speak to it, yes.
For a number of years, I have participated in the well-run cleanup days in Halifax, sponsored by the Beautification Committee of Halifax and the one sponsored by Monpont Watershed Association. On January 23rd, 2019, I committed to become a more active litter buster because I hope to make a small difference in my neighborhood. Between January 23rd, 2019 and May 8th, 2021, I collected 8,787 nips. 5,012 of these have been mostly from about 4 miles of roadway, all within about a mile of where I live. That equates to roughly 537 nips per mile per year, which means that an average more than 1 nip per day per mile is getting heaved out of someone's window. 2 people or groups who participated in Halifax's recent town cleanup day picked up 427 nips, mostly along just part of Elm Street. Between April 10th and April 24th, a Hanson group called Clean Hanson worked to pick up litter. On the Clean Hanson Facebook page, 17 people posted who had picked up litter and collectively recorded picking up 2,762 nips. Halifax has no local litter laws. The state basically has 2 laws. The way I interpret one law is that it is for major litterers and carries significant fines. The other law allows the registry to take away someone's license for a period of 7 days. On April 20th, Police Chief Shaves wrote to me that since January 1st, 2019, the Halifax Police had issued no citations for littering. He also stated that, as you are aware, our resources are stretched thin. At times, we only have 2 officers patrolling the town. I don't feel our department has the resources, the funding, or the personnel to deal with the littering problem other than educating the residents by public service announcements or social media on the effects of littering on our community. I also requested information from Police Chief Shaves regarding DWIs. Between January 1st, 2019 and April 22nd, 2021, only 12 arrests for DWI occurred in Halifax. During the same time frame, only 3 cases of possession of an open container in a motor vehicle were recorded. Unfortunately, this is not just in my neighborhood. Halifax has 52 miles of accepted roads. If each mile of these roads gets 536 nips dumped on it per year, that means that 27,924 nips are getting on Halifax's highways annually. Picking up litter has many small hazards like sunburn, tick and mosquito bites, briars, infections, poison ivy, and cuts. But litter busting is a far more serious hazard. Cars. In the course of less than 3 weeks, 1 man died while litter busting, another was left paralyzed from the neck down. On January 2nd, 2021, 92-year-old Robert Mack Woodford was struck by a vehicle picking up litter along his street in Macon, Georgia. Robert Woodford's son Anthony said his dad kept his street litter-free and that every day Robert would be out along the sidewalk with his trash-plucking stick in hand. On January 20th, 77-year-old John Coughlin was struck by a car while litter busting in Agawam, Massachusetts. His injuries left him paralyzed from the neck down. According to news reports, Mr. Coughlin would walk miles per day cleaning up the streets of litter since his retirement. Mr. Coughlin was particularly aggrieved by the amount of nip litter and was an advocate of adding nips to the Massachusetts bottle bill. Sadly, Mr. Coughlin succumbed to his injuries and died on April 17th. When I started my more active litter busting, I too was on the bandwagon to add nips to the bottle bill. I've changed my thinking regarding this issue. I believe there should be a statewide ban on nips. Evelyn Strawn, a volunteer cleanup coordinator in Plymouth, stated that 68,000 nips are sold every day in Massachusetts, with about 25 million sold every year. Where are the vast bulk of those nips ending up? They're mostly ending up on our roadways and waterways. Adding nips to the bottle bill will do little to alleviate this particular litter. Even if volunteers want to pick up and redeem most of the nips, of those littered, more than half would probably not be redeemable because they will be too damaged by vehicles or dirt to go through a redemption machine. Let's do a little math. If 25 million is an accurate figure, and let's say only 3/4 of those are littered, then that still leaves 18,750,000 nips to be cleaned up. It would take 4,000 volunteers in Massachusetts picking up 4,687 nips per year, every year, to clean up the 18,750,000 nips. Chelsea began the sale of 50 milliliter nips in June 2018, followed by a 100 milliliter ban in August 2018. In an August 2019 article, Sarah Betancourt wrote, "In the years since the city banned the sale of tiny 50 milliliter bottles of hard liquor, public drunkenness has diminished. Alcohol-related ambulance responses are way down, and there has been a reduction in the number of people taken into protective custody for alcohol intoxication. Merchant and local officials also say the litter caused by discarded nip bottles has largely diminished." Chelsea is an example of a municipality where most of the nips purchased are by pedestrians. Falmouth passed a ban to sell nips that took effect January 1st, 2021, and Mashpee's Board of Selectmen voted 4-1 to ban the sale of nips effective July 1st, 2021. Betty Cavaco of Plymouth Selectmen plans on putting an article on their fall town meeting to ban the sale of nips. In October 2020, Attleboro's Mayor Paul Haro proposed banning nips. Wareham has also considered doing a ban. I've written a letter to Pembroke Select Board to request that they work towards a ban. I plan to reach out in the future to Halifax's other neighboring towns so they too will ban the sale of nips. When you leave the confines of the cities, you are left with the nip consumption in suburban and rural areas where most of the nip consumption is probably done by people drinking and driving. The original bottle bill in Massachusetts became effective in 1983. Legislation was proposed in 2017 and then in 2019 to add nips to this bill. Both times the proposed modified bill failed to get out of committee. In March of this year, a new modified bill was proposed to add nips as well as most drinkable liquids to the bottle bill. A nickel in 1983 is worth approximately 1.9 cents today. So, if approximately half of the nips are redeemable, do you really want to ask volunteer litter busters to pick up a nip for basically what equates to a penny per nip for $1983? Another consideration is the millions of nips that are left by the sides of the roads and in our waterways can take 450 years to decompose. Other significant costs of litter should be considered, like reduced property values and the negative impact on mental health and well-being. I propose that Halifax join Chelsea, Falmouth, and Mass to ban the sale of nips. My hope is, just as I have personally tried to make a small difference in my neighborhood, Halifax will set an example for our neighboring communities so that they too will pass a ban on the sale of nips, and that if enough communities take action, then the Commonwealth of Massachusetts legislature will take action at the state level to ban the sale of nips. Please vote yes on Article 54. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jeff Bolger, Brandeis Circle. I have no disagreement that roadside disposal of nips is a problem, and I commend Shirley for the work that she's done and her commitment. However, I have to disagree by the method in which she proposes to solve this problem. I see this as a matter of personal responsibility. Just because some people don't properly dispose of them, the town of Halifax has no business telling others, such as myself, what we can and cannot buy in town.
All right, please. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
If Halifax doesn't have a local ordinance, we should enact one, and we should direct the police department to enforce it. Secondly, it's an assault on our hard-working small business owners in town. They're going to lose money, and it's not going to stop the sale of nips. We have several liquor stores right on our town borders. The people who are doing this are going to continue to buy nips. They're just going to buy them from somebody else out of town. And, or worse, they're going to buy pints, and they're going to drink those, get drunker, and make a bigger mess throwing those out the window. And if the legislature failed to pass the nip bottle, maybe the town, and we should pressure our state reps to do a little more to put a nickel deposit on nips. It's done in Maine, and I know there's regular people in Halifax. I see a gentleman regularly on his bicycle picking up returnable cans. So if nips were returnable, there'd be other people out there picking them up as well. And it leads us, where do we go next? Are we going to ban water bottles? Are we going to buy, how about styrofoam coffee cups? I see them all over the side of the road. But better yet, this past year, one of the biggest litter problems statewide, if you go to any supermarket parking lot, are used masks. Now that might be a ban I'm willing to support. Let's get rid of masks.
Thank you, sir. Please. Anybody else like to speak on this, ma'am? Yes.
Mr. Moderator, I'm not Kimberly King, Plymouth Street, Kimberly King Kavicki, Plymouth Street. I agree with the gentleman before me said, but Mr. Moderator, my question's actually for the owners of Harmony too. I'd like to know, if we pass this, how many sales are going to be lost to them? What damage are we going to do to a small business when we already have a high tax rate and not many businesses in town? And I'd also like to know what's next of Mrs. McGrath. Are we going to go after our restaurants, Cumberland Farms, Dunkin' Donuts? Is it going to be their paper bags, our coffee cups, the restaurants, the way they package food? Because where I live on Plymouth Street, the one thing I don't get in front of my house is nips. But I get everybody's containers from food. I get Kentucky Fried Chicken. I get soda cans. I got coffee cups. Everything but nips. We can't hurt our small businesses. And as residents, we can't go against them, because if we continue to do so, they're not going to stay in town.
Thank you. Anybody else like to make a comment? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Joseph Tonello, 19 Lake Street, and I am the owner of Harmony Liquors. To answer a question, last week the NIPS was about 17% of liquor purchases in the liquor store. My issue is that we're not giving us the opportunity to fix the problem. I mean, in the last 5 years, as a small business owner, they've taken away flavored cigars, individual cigars. They put prices on them to try to ban them. They got rid of the menthol cigarettes. That was 30% of our cigarette sales. The cigars were like 65% of our sales. Just the ban on plastic bags cost Harmony Liquors $4,800 a year, because now we have to buy paper bags that cost 4 times as much. You know, 1,000 plastic bags is $12. 400 count of paper bags is $48. We go through 3 bundles a week. You know, it's just got to stop what they do. I understand there is a liquor issue, but banning them, if they got to drive to a different town, they're still going to come back and dump them here. They're also driving further, which means they're drinking and driving, if they are, further to get them. The other thing is that it shows in Chelsea that the litter has not changed, them banning that. The state is working with the liquor industries to put a redemption on the NIPS, and I heard it's all going to go to 10 cents if it does go through, including soda, whatever else is redeemed. So at this point, I would say wait until everybody in the state does it so that Halifax isn't at a disadvantage, or try to put the deposit on them to try to curb some of the trash, but it's not going to help. I own 660 feet of property on Plymouth Street, and I pick up McDonald's bags, Burger King's bags, and Wendy's. Well, there's none of those in Halifax. So, you know, we just need to try to solve the trash problem. And honestly, it needs to start with the kids at school, educate them that this is the only world we got. We need to take care of it. And maybe as they get older and they get used to it, start correcting some of the litter issues that we have out here. But I'm asking everybody to please vote this down and keep us in town and working.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, up here in the front.
My name is Thomas Manning, 10 Sycamore Drive. What are we talking about here? You closed the whole state down. You kept the marijuana stores open. You kept the liquor stores open. You closed the churches. I mean, what the hell is going on here in this town? We're no different than anybody else. But you're in here trying to chase after nip bottles? But you got people running up and down the street with joints in their mouths? Are you kidding me? Don't waste your time with this bill. This is crap. And you make money. You're looking for tax money. You're making plenty of money off the booze. No one's fooling anybody here. Everybody's trying to look cute. Everybody's up on the stage with their ties real tight and everything. This is BS, and everybody knows it. And I think maybe you should acknowledge it, and everybody would respect you when you leave here today. We're not talking about anything serious. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, my question's for Joe. If you were to leave town because the taxpayers continue to go after you and your costs go up and you can't make anything extra, how much tax dollars do we lose when you leave?
Thank you. Oh. Mr. Tonello, any questions? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
She's asking what the liquor store pays to the town as far as taxes, property taxes, and fees for liquor licenses and taxes on that. The building pays roughly $40,000, and the other fees in the town are roughly about $5,000. And my personal property at home between the two properties on Lake Street is about another $10,000.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
Michelle Barclay, I'm at Hudson Street. So I hear a lot about how if it's not NIPS, it's going to be something else. But the reality is, when we're out cleaning up the streets, it's the majority of the trash we pick up are nips and cigarette butts. You know, people talk about Wendy's and Burger King and all of that, but we don't see nearly as much of that as we do nips. And people aren't throwing that out as much because it's not illegal to eat Wendy's in your car. And that's the problem. So Shirley picks up thousands upon thousands of these nips all year long. And while I agree that there are more palatable solutions, like putting a deposit on the nips or educating people about litter, the reality is those things aren't happening. If they were, you know, I might sing a different tune, but they're not, and people like Shirley are still picking up nips every single day. And I actually also have a question for the owner of Harmony Liquors. Is
Well,
it
all the questions will be addressed to the moderator,
I'm
and I'll
so
try
sorry.
to find that out
Yes.
for you.
My apologies. Is it 17% of sales or 17% of revenue that he would be losing if NIPS were banned in Halifax? Thank you.
Thank you. On a personal level, I don't see how that's relevant to the discussion, but Mr. Pinello, if you'd like to address your question, that'd be great.
It would be 17% of liquor, not the wholesales.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll take a vote on Article
there's more.
54. Yes, ma'am.
Why can't we fine people for littering to help? And that would pay for itself.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, David Masio, 16 10th Ave. Can we just stop trying to take things away from this country that we're already losing left and right? So let's just, we don't need to take anything else away. We're losing enough as it is. Let's get it going.
Okay, seeing no indication of further discussion.
Mr. Moderator.
I'm sorry, right up here in the front.
Dawn Corby, Musterfield Lane. I do understand both sides of it, and but you know, we got to ask ourselves, where are we going to start? You know, and the gentleman said, well, maybe when the kids grow up, they can take responsibility. But why it's always dumped on the kids?
Ma'am.
What are we teaching them? You know, if everybody in this room could get out there and pick up trash, I mean, do we not want a clean, beautiful town?
Sir.
But
Sir.
I just, you know, you have to start somewhere. And we're talking about the environment, but it just keeps getting kicked down the road. So, you know, I understand the other side of it, but I don't know if there's a way we can meet in the middle. The police officers, I mean, are they going to stop people when they see things thrown out the window? Probably not. And then we're talking about people drinking and driving. So I don't understand. I don't understand the nip part, I guess. Is it people that they can't afford a pint? What is it with the nips? And are they that important that we just want to litter our town over? So I commend Shirley. I mean, my kids and I have been out there too, and I'll tell you one of the things my daughter asked me, why is it always up to us to bail everybody out? So I guess that's the big question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That gentleman right there.
Tom McGrath, 39 Circuit Street. I'm a firm believer in less government is better government, and I don't want the town of Halifax telling me what I can and cannot drink.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, there's always a good argument to take something away from people. You know, the issue is personal accountability. We don't talk about that. And the issue would be right now on this thing is that if you have a bottle deposit on this and then fund that money back to the beautification committee, they can pick up the rest of the stuff too, or hire people to do it. And the personal accountability, if the person threw it out the window, well, he wasn't accountable, so he paid for it. The person who returned it gets his money back. Life's good. We don't take away the freedom. The person who did it gets responsible. That's the bill we should be having in front of us. The warrant is a fee on the bottle, so you can fund a committee to pick up the trash.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly Kvicki, Plymouth Street. My question is, or maybe more so, could we get the committees to agree to use all the resources outside of town that are available to them? I mean, our highway department pays for tires to get rid of them. The Plymouth County Mosquito Control Project does that at no cost to us. We can use them for beautification days. The Plymouth County Correctional Facility has a litter team. We can request that the jail bring out their inmates that are safe to clean our roadsides. Why are we not using what's in place versus banning nips? It's ludicrous to ban something when we can be asking for help out of programs that already exist.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 54. All those in favor of Article 54, please raise your green cards. Signify a yes vote. And all those opposed, please raise your red card. The article fails.
33. 33. 33.
Proposed by the highway surveyor. Yes, Mr. Hayward.
Steve Hayward, highway surveyor. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $135,000 for the new backhoe.
Second.
Okay, recommendation from, do I have a motion to accept that?
It was
Article
seconded
33?
already.
I second it.
Seconded, yep.
And do I have a second?
Yes.
Second. Okay, recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Mr. Hay, would you like to speak to your article, please?
Yes, I would. This is to replace a 2004 410 John Deere backhoe with 6,600 hours on it. The trade value is $20,000. I talked to a mechanic, the water superintendent, and the commissioners, and we would like to trade, well, have the water department pay the trade cost. So they get the old backhoe and we'll buy a new one. So that's what we're going to do for the trade, if the town votes for that. I'll be buying this from the VHB 98 state contract. So there's 3 different machines that I'm looking at. We're going to have them come out and we're going to get demos in all 3 so we can see which one will work for the Halifax the best. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, and one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Somebody brought up the tires through the Plymouth County. We already do that.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote. Sorry? Yes, sir.
What are the 3 types of machines we're looking at? Are they wet systems or are they Tier 4 final? What do we get?
It's Tier 4, and it's a John Deere, the Cat, and a JCB.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 33. All those in favor say aye. Will hold up their green cards, please. All those opposed, your red cards, please. Motion passes.
Article 39, 39.
Proposed by the Municipal and School Building Committee.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $90,000 to replace the windows in the Halifax.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Article 39. Finance Committee, your recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends.
Mr. Joy, would you like to speak to this, please?
Yes. The replacement for the town windows, right now, most of the windows are leaking. Their air is going through. It's costing us more money for air conditioning, heating. Some of the windows you can't open. The problem with the windows, they are custom made. It's not like you see on TV, buy two, get two free. That doesn't happen. The windows are vinyl replacement. They're approved by the Halifax Historical Commission. They're energy efficient. And right now, this also includes the replacement of some of the rotting sills and other parts of the window casements that have to be replaced.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or discussion? Yes, sir.
So that we understand this right, this is to replace just the windows, not the frame to the windows. So you're talking a replacement window. So you're going to have all the old exterior jambs, all the exterior trim and window sills, and interior trim all stays intact.
I'll see if I can find out. Mr. Joy?
There will be replacement on some of the sills that have been rotted away. They will be replacement, and that's included in the cost.
Great, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is a replacement style unit, not a new construction.
They are replacements, not new construction, but there are some repair work that has to be done. And there are a total of 72 windows.
Has the building been checked for lead?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else have any further comments or discussion?
If there
Yes,
is
sir.
lead, it has to be a certified job, which could raise the cost. That's why I'm asking.
Maybe someone else can answer whether lead has been replaced. We have done some painting, so I'm assuming that when we've done some painting in the building, lead would probably have to be taken care of at that time. I don't know if there's anyone on the board that knows about that.
I don't know. I know that there was a replacement painting job 8 or 9 years ago, but I don't know.
I would have no idea. Yes.
Is this engineered, or do we need an architecture? I mean, we needed an architect to do the roof that was already here at the school, so is this going to be done soon, or are we going to have this come back and we didn't do it, and we're going to need to get an architect and an engineer, and, oh, by the way, we need to get rid of lead, because most likely, unless you did take the lead off, you're going to have lead underneath that paint.
Mr. Joy, on replacement windows, I wouldn't know. Would you have any information on that?
There is no architecture, there's no engineering involved in this here. This is strictly a window replacement. As far as the lead is concerned, again, lead has been outlawed for a long time. If you do painting, you have to remove the lead. So if we've done a painting job in the town hall, it would be assumed that the lead would have been replaced, would have been taken out at that time.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly Kavicki, Plymouth Street. My question, Mr. Moderator, is, and I may need your help and the help of Town Council to properly word this and get it done, but is it possible to amend this article to pass it, but to say contingent on lead? Because then the contractors that are licensed to do lead, the fact that it's all going to have to be enclosed, it's a huge process. This is what my husband does for work. And it's going to have a significant increase, so not having that specific part of information from the Board of Health or the building department's kind of huge. But I don't want to tell Town Hall no to this where their windows are already leaking and other things, because they're going to come back to us with major repairs because of water damage.
I'll see if I can find out. Mr. Joy, would you have any information on that, whether...
I don't. I mean, if they want to amend this here, they can, but I do not have information on the lead.
The bid itself, do you know, Mr. Joy, if that included anything else as far as lead? I thought it was state mandated that it had to be lead inspected. Yes, no?
It could very well be. I don't recall.
All right, thank you. Sandy, maybe you can help us with that?
Sandra Nolan, 360 South Street, also the town accountant. I did just text the Director of Building Maintenance, and he replied that he's tested several things in the old section that would have commonly contained lead and haven't found anything. They've had nothing come back positive for lead.
Great, thank you very much. Any indication? Yes.
I think that's a good idea. I'd like to move to amend that it would be the same with the condition that we would reconsider if we did find lead.
Sandy, you said that was already included. You read the... Yes. Okay, if there is a motion to amend the article, then advise that I need to know, or the town will need to know exactly what verbiage and what you want to amend, as far as being specific, so it's not open-ended. Yes, ma'am. I believe you were the one that asked for the amendment.
I did. I'd just like it to be amended on the condition that there's no lead, and if we find lead, that we just put a stop to it, because there's going to be a significant increase, and there's other laws and such that would need to be followed that we wouldn't be prepared for at the time.
Okay, just to make it clear then, your motion is to amend the article to include any contingency as far as other conditions of repair that would be necessary if founded?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm wanting to put words in your mouth, but that, just from my own understanding, that's how I understand.
No, that's okay, Mr. Moderator. That's why I said I may need your help and town council's help to properly word it.
Okay, so I have a motion to...
Bert?
Town council's trying to talk.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but I'm not in the business of making other people's motions, but for the sake of expedience and clarity, let me pose this and let us know, or the meeting knows, if it meets your satisfaction. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $90,000 to replace the windows at the Halifax Town Hall, provided no lead is detected on or about the windows that needs to be removed.
That's perfect, town council. Thank you.
That's the motion on the floor.
Thanks. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to amend the article as stated. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of amending Article 39 to include that, please signify your yes vote by raising the green card. And those opposed, please raise your red card. The motion to amend it passes. Okay, so now we have the motion on Article 39 on the floor as amended. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Mr. Moderator, there's a question on the floor.
This seems to be a major undertaking, $90,000 for windows. I've been in Halifax almost 50 years now, and it's my recollection that we had a major addition to the town hall. and there was the old part and then the new part. And I'm just wondering, were all the windows replaced when we did that project? Or are we talking about some windows that might be 100 years old and other windows that might only be 30 years old? And if that's the case, why can't this project, to be a little more palatable to the taxpayers, be cut in half? And we just replace the older windows this year and do something with the other windows later.
Let me find out. Mr. Joy, do you know on the bid process exactly how many windows are included on the proposal? They including all the windows in the town hall, or?
There's a total of 72 windows.
72?
Yes.
Yes, sir. All your questions, please direct it through the moderator.
They're windows, you're going to have the old and the new section. But the windows are still old. They're still drafty. They're still leaking somewhere along the line. I can't tell you specifically which window it is, but all 72 are going to be replaced.
Okay, thank you, sir.
It comes to it.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to speak to the question of whether or not there's lead in the building. I believe lead was outlawed in the late 70s, something like that. I wonder how many times, or through you to whomever knows, how many times has the town hall been painted in the meantime? They would have had to have dealt with the lead in the past. So that's my question.
Ma'am, I wouldn't even know how to go about answering that question or getting an answer for it. I do know, as Mr. Joy indicated, it's 72 windows. So, and he stated exactly if they were the old windows leaking or the new ones. He couldn't pinpoint it down exactly.
The question that we are considering right now is whether to amend this and pull it to a stop if anybody finds any lead. It seems to me that's redundant. It's already happened.
We already passed the
Pam, yes, please.
Pam Aducey, Treasurer Collector. Just speaking for my office, the downstairs in the collector's office, there's 4 windows in there. One of them, every time it rains, there's a flood. There's another window that we have to have a stick to keep it open, because if you can hear the wind on we always think that the police are going down the street because it's just so windy. And they only open like this much, they fall shut. These windows are old. They need to be replaced. And I can only speak for my office, but I'm sure other department heads would have the same thing to say.
Pam, just to further get some clarification, are you in the new section, the
Yes,
new edition,
I'm in
or
the
you
new
was
section.
and so that would be the newer windows?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, I can answer the young lady's question about lead. It became illegal in new building to stop using lead. However, if you kept old lead intact, and oftentimes it's in your windowsills, as long as it was intact, it was still allowed to be there until you went to replace, repair, add additions. It just couldn't be disturbed when the laws were passed, and they are still the same.
Mr. Andrews?
Moderator, through you to the town accountant, could we get an answer to whether or not any of this money would be reimbursable when the windows are replaced at the completion of the job?
Sandy?
The answer is yes. One of the the director of building maintenance had said that he had spoken with the people who help us with the Green Communities grant, and that the replacing of the windows would be partially reimbursed through the Green Communities grant. I'm not sure exactly how much of it would be, but to add to Pam Aducey's point, my window that is right next to my desk leaks during the rainstorms as well. And I've had to stuff paper towels in them just to keep my papers from getting wet. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Yes, Ms. Drew.
I just wanted to refer to these grants, these new programs that sound really fancy and fun. You know, they have the green going on, but they're not necessarily in our best interest because of the other things that we then give up. There's implementation plans that make it so, for instance, in complete streets, Department of Transportation can pass down and change any of your laws. So the you know, just because we get a couple of bucks back doesn't mean that we didn't give up freedom. So we should definitely be making sure that we're not getting involved with 40R, smart growth, complete streets, and things of that nature that aren't in the best interest of the town's future.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 39 as amended. All those in favor of Article 39, please indicate yes by raising your green card, and no by raising your red card, please. The article passes.
22.
The Halifax
22.
Elementary School.
22.
Yes.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I apologize for my delay. I thought you said 42. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $30,000 to replace the kitchen flooring at the Halifax Elementary School.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second of Article 22. Recommendation from the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee does recommend.
Ms. Schmeling, would you like to address that issue, please?
Sure. We had an article earlier at a previous town meeting replacing some of the tile flooring in the building, and this is just specifically for the kitchen. I believe it's original tiling, so it's just part of our regular building maintenance.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, any questions? Seeing no indication of any discussion.
Bert?
Gentleman.
Sorry, didn't see him.
Just curious, what type of floor are we taking up and what type of floor are we putting down? What material? VCT, ceramic?
Someone, do you ever address that, please?
I don't have the answer to that, to be honest with you. We can find out. We can text Mr. Durkee and get an answer to that.
Mr. Joy, would you have any information on the type of flooring, or?
I believe it's linoleum tile now.
No, it's not linoleum, it was Kyle.
Thought he might be able to help out there.
What? I think it was time.
Any other discussion? Yes, please, your name and address, please.
Deb Tinkham, 88 Paradise Lane. How big is this room? Because 30,000 sounds like an awful lot of money. My recollection of that room is it's very small.
I'll see if I can find out. Summer, do you know what flooring, where it's going to start, where it's going to end, the floor that's being replaced? Where did she go? Did I miss it? Anybody else on the school committee, or Mr. Andrews, if you could help us out here?
Gordon Andrews, Halifax Elementary School. So it's the cost estimate was received on January 13th, 2021. The total was $23,165. That didn't include the cost of moving all of the equipment that's inside. There was an additional cost to that. So all the materials that's in there now is all the stainless. Those items need to be moved out of the way. Once those are moved out of the way, they're going to be installing a Johnsonite granite safe T 6-inch non-skid vinyl sheet.
Mr. Andrews, do you know what section of the flooring is going to be from where to where, or what?
So it's it would be between the all-purpose room all the way to the new cafeteria where the students eat. This is inside the kitchen area, which the town has passed inspection by the health inspector previously, but it's been noted on inspections numerous times that the flooring needs to be dealt with.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hope that answers your question. Any other discussion, questions, or statements? Okay, we'll move then to vote on Article 22. All those in favor of Article 22, your green cards, please. All those opposed, raise your red card, please. Motion passes.
57.
Proposed by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to amend Chapter 141 Stormwater Management of the Code of the Town of Halifax based on the recommendations of the Mass Attorney as printed in the warrant.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second.
Finance Committee recommends.
From the Finance Committee, sorry, I almost forgot.
So Finance Committee recommends.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Garen, would you like to...
Basically, what it contains is the runoff from streets, from cranberry bogs and other, and storm water, through some filters and other utilities to moderate that.
Anybody else from the board like to address that?
So previously, the town meeting had approved a stormwater management plan. It was reviewed by the Attorney General, like Mr. Guerin said, and there were corrections and recommendations that they wanted to see, and contained within the warrant are those recommendation changes.
Okay, any discussion, questions, comments? Seeing no indication of any discussion on Article 57, all those in favor, please indicate yes by raising your green cards, and no, raising your red cards, please. Motion passes.
58.
58, the highway surveyor. Mr. Haywood.
Steve Hayward, Highway Surveyor. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain the fee to, fee to and/or permanent and/or temporary easements for bridge construction, access and/or related purposes in, on, and under parcels of land abutting Pine Street, which parcels are approximately shown on the plan entitled Pine Street over Cranberry Bog Overflow Right-of-Way Plans, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk. As said, plan may be amended from time to time in the land within 200 feet of said parcels of land, and further to the board, authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into any and all agreements to take any actions necessary and appropriate and, I've lost my spot here. In agreements and take any and all actions necessary and appropriate the effect of foregoing transactions. I'm sorry, but that's it.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept Article 58, recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Mr. Haywood, would you like to address your the article here?
This article is no money. This is, I sent out eminent domain or letters that the people that live in that area of Pine Street Bridge is letting the town use part of their land to store equipment or any work we have to do around the bridge. If we have to, when we're making a temporary place for the water to go under the road, they've authorized us to use the land, and the selectmen are just going to be agreeing to that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any discussion? Yes, your name and address, please.
Amy Troop, 10 Hillside Ave. Eminent domain would imply that you would have to maybe purchase land from people. It doesn't necessarily be given for free. That would be like an easement to use.
That's what the homeowners sign. It's an easement, just for us to use the land, and when they get the land back better than it was before, because we're going to fix it after.
Yes, Ms. Drew.
So we do have some sort of map and lot and area, some that we can see here, and it's no money is involved in this at all?
Not this part of it. This is just for the homeowners. They sign the paper. We have it all on record. They're going to let us use the land, and afterwards we give it back, and everything's back to normal.
Yes, Ms. Drew.
How much land is it?
One house is 20 feet. Another house is, I think, 5 feet or 10 feet. There's one house that's 20 feet, and the other ones are either 15 or 20 feet.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, Ms. Drew.
So you said houses?
It isn't that hard. It's the people signed their land to let the town use it right now. That's all it is. It's a use of their land.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Could I have the next speaker behind you?
Bert, maybe I can help too. Maybe I can help too. I'm sorry, I said maybe I can help too.
Kimberly Kavicki, 668 Plymouth Street. Mr. Moderator, through you to our elected highway surveyor, that was a rude comment, and not everybody has experience and questions are necessary, and he should respect those on town floor a little more. But secondly, Mr. Hayward has stated multiple times that he already has something signed from the property owners, so I don't see why we need to go further and add more to and restrict the people in town giving more power to government. Thanks.
Well, let me check with the town council 1 second here.
Yeah, two things. I think what's being done here is the homeowners in the vicinity of the construction project voluntarily gave the town very limited and very temporary easements for the storage, if you will, and location of the equipment necessary to fix the, is it the bridge, Steve? Yeah. To fix the river or the bridge or the roadway, whatever the case is there. Once the project is completed, the property reverts back to the homeowner.
Right.
It's really as simple as that. And the reason the Board of Selectmen, town meeting has to approve of it is because this is considered a land transaction as a matter of Massachusetts law. And it's the town meeting members, all of you, that are the ones that are authorized to either accept a grant of land, which is what the motion is now, or decline it. There really wouldn't be any reason but to inconvenience the project if you were to decline it. So I would think that you'd have every impetus to accept these very temporary easements for purposes of construction and completing the project.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes, and I apologize to Amy for getting upset.
And I should just add, regardless of whether there's consideration being passed or not, i.e. whether you're appropriating funds or not, there still is required a town meeting vote to accept the property.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Karen Favor, Clyde Bosworth. I just had a question in regards to why it says purchase, because I think in the town people's minds, they probably feel like this is an open blank check. And maybe it should be worded that if there's no cost to the town for this, that we remove the word by purchase. So my motion would be to amend this to remove the words by purchase.
Okay, I understand there are no funds involved with it as it's proposed.
Again, I can just restate that there is no appropriation involved.
Yes, Ms. Drew.
I would like to amend Article 58 to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to create a temporary easement for bridge construction, access, and/or related purposes in, on, and under parcels of land abutting Pine Street, which parcels are approximately shown on a plan entitled Pine Street over Cranberry Bog Overflow Right-of-Way Plans, a copy of which is on the file with the town clerk, as said plan may be amended from time to time and land within 200 feet of these said parcels of land. Just easements.
Let me find out from town council if in fact we have authorized an authority to do that.
You can amend a motion as long as it's within the four corners of what's been printed in the article to any extent that you want. I think the more appropriate question would be for the highway department and whether or if the amendment as stated would have any adverse impact on the project as it is currently designed. I don't think that what you're suggesting is a substantial amendment to the motion, but I can't speak to how it may impact the project. So, if Mr. Haywood.
Mr. Haywood, could you give us maybe some help on this, about that impact on the article?
I don't think it'll impact it, but that's why it says gift or. It's not a definite we're going to be purchased. We don't have to purchase. The people already signed the agreement.
Yes, it's true.
So my first question would be, why didn't they ask the town before they entered into an agreement? But however, if that's already the case and it's only an easement, I would feel more comfortable myself. I don't know about anybody else in this room, but I don't want any purchase, gift, or eminent domain or any of that to have anything to do with it without coming back to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, I would second Amy's amendment.
She seconded it.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Haywood.
I have no objection of this. If that's how the town wants to go with it, and that's how we'll go with it. So, I'll agree with you. It makes
affect what's going on is what I asked.
Thank you. Can I get clarification on the wording of the amendment?
You can ask for clarification, sure.
Ask her to read it again.
Amy, could you give us clarification exactly on your amendment, the wording, how you're going to do it?
And if I may, I think it's important to keep the word gift in there, just for sake of indicating there's no consideration being paid.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that as a great point. So it would read like this: to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire or be gifted temporary easements for bridge construction, access, and/or related purposes in, on, and under parcels of land abutting Pine Street, which parcels are approximately shown on a plan entitled Pine Street over Cranberry Bog Overflow Right-of-Ways Plan, Way Plan, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk, as said plan may be amended from time to time, and land within 200 feet of said parcels of land.
What about the selectmen authorization language?
Well, they already authorized it. Is that, I think I asked that question.
We didn't.
So to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into the easement agreement.
I think it's important, in my view, to keep language in there to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into any and all agreements and take all actions necessary or appropriate to effectuate the transactions. And really, again, what that means is that, the Board of Selectmen has the authority to deal from here on out in terms of tweaking whatever other incidental arrangements may be necessary in order to facilitate the project. That's my take on it.
I think the point that we out here are making is that we don't want any money transferred.
Right.
And we don't want to give them the authority to do so.
The Board of Selectmen don't have any independent authority to transfer money. There is no appropriation being authorized in connection with this vote. This motion.
My understanding would have to be done by voting to the town.
Would have to come back to town meeting.
Yes, the Board of Selectmen could not appropriate or authorize any type of funding without a vote from the town.
It does say including without limitation the cost of any land easement acquisitions, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into any and all agreements and take any and all all actions necessary or appropriate to. So that doesn't necessarily, that's not necessarily what I think we're starting to talk about right here as our motion. We're saying no money involved.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
The motion that was read was not what was printed in the article, and I think that that's where the difference is. Steve's original motion was to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain, and I understand that the previous speaker is trying to remove by purchase and/or eminent domain. I think if you just struck in the original motion by purchase and/or eminent domain and left the rest alone, I think it would accomplish what the previous speaker was trying to accomplish.
Mr. Troop, it's your motion.
Except for down in the lower half, it says to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds. So you're saying he read something differently than what's in the warrant?
Yes, the motion was different. He limited, basically when the warrant is printed, everything is left open and available to the mover of the motion. So when they come up, they're going to come up and limit, and they're going to specify what motion they're going forward with.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, please read that. Thank you.
So if I'm reading your motion, what you would like to move forward with, it's, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift the fee to and/or permanent and/or temporary easements for bridge construction, access and/or related purposes in, on, and under parcels of land abutting Pine Street, which parcels are approximately shown on a plan entitled Pine Street over Cranberry Bog Overflow Right-of-Way Plans, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk, as said plan may be amended from time to time with the land within 200 feet of said parcels of land, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into any and all agreements and take any and all actions necessary or appropriate to effectuate the foregoing transactions.
How's that sound, Mr. Troop?
Does any and all other actions have anything to do, I mean, like, can we specify that it wouldn't be costing the town taxpayers?
The motion doesn't, so what's printed in the warrant where it says to raise an appropriate transfer available funds and/or borrow some sum of money to fund the foregoing and any all costs related thereto, including, without limitation, any, that none of that was read in the motion. There is no cost associated with this article.
We good? Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's move on to, I have a motion on the floor in a second on the amended article number 58. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your green. And all those opposed, please raise your red card. The article passes.
No.
The motion to amend passes. Motion to amend.
No, we didn't vote.
Now we
on
need
it.
the
Motion on
article.
the amendment. Now you vote. the
Sorry,
article.
my bad, new guy. We have to there's a motion on the floor and been second to amend Article 58. We have to vote on that first. So for the amendment of Article 58, all those in favor, please raise your green card. All those opposed to the amendment, raise your red card. The amendment change passes. Okay, now we'll vote on Article 58 as amended. All those in favor, please raise your green card. And all those opposed, please raise your red card. Article passes. Thank you.
Article 49. 49? 49.
Mr. Moderator,
Hold on, Tommy, I gotta find it first. Here we go, 49.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir.
I move the town vote to transfer undesignated funds, balance sum of $15,000 to repair, replace the fence at the Lincoln Street Beach area.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second
Tom?
on Article 49. The Finance Committee recommendation.
We were given a different number.
You were given a different
We
number.
were given a different number for that.
I think he misread the
When you
article.
say a different number, you mean
The article
50?
didn't say 7,500.
Yeah, the article should say 7,500, not 15,000.
Article 49.
We're on Article
Yes.
49.
49, yeah.
Yeah.
We were told that the number is half of that by email, so we'd have to revote.
Please speak into the mic.
Yes, when you say half the,
Okay, we took an initial vote on the article, and then we were told at a later point that the amount had decreased to 7,500. So we revoted on that amount. So I can't give you a Finance Committee recommendation on 15,000 because that's not what we voted on. If you
Yes,
want to,
I didn't realize that.
Mr. Schindler, was it amendment?
It was amended and the new amount is $7,500.
So the new number is how much again, Tom?
$7,500.
7,500, not 15. All right, words different than printed. Want a motion?
The motion is, I move that the town vote
Hold on,
to
please,
transfer
hold on.
from
Sandy.
undesignated
Hold on,
fund.
please, 1 second.
She has the correct motion.
If it's a different number than what's printed, right here, it was for 15. Yes. Okay. Tom, if you could clarify that then, just for my own purpose. It's printed as 15,000.
Yes.
That's not what you're looking for. It's
Yes.
7,500.
$7,500, yes.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
the Finance Committee does recommend at 7,500.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
A second.
There's a motion on the floor and second for Article 49. Tom, could you speak to that, please?
Yes, it's, the fence is old. If anybody knows the beach down there, the fence is old, it's coming down, it's falling down. I've tried to fix it myself, and it's just getting rusty and old. There's a section that we put a new section in with a new gate. I would just like to continue that rest to make it look all nice and pretty.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any discussion? Yes, Amy.
a bunch of us over here are asking, where is the fence? Is it only going to be replaced in the sections that are already there? Are you going to enclose the beach? And we all didn't think that there was any disrepair to the fence, and we go down there all the time.
Let me see if I can find out. Tom?
The fence is in bad shape. It's rusty. It's place of it's sagging down, and I just would like to fix it up. And
is it some of it that has, I guess, as I understand?
I don't think it's going to be repairable. I think it's going to be more replaced. You know, like.
So the repair and replace, what has to be done is the $7,500?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Schmeling, yes?
Summer Schmeling, Indian Path Road. Do we need a fence there? Can we just take the old one down and not put a new one back up?
You can do that too if you want.
It's what? I'm sorry, Tom, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
The fence is already there, and I just want to fix it up. I could take it down too if they want me to. I have fence on the other side and a gate also. Was the town want me to take that down also?
No, we're just going to go with what's proposed. Yes?
Bert,
Yeah.
I guess I'd ask,
if it comes to it, I would say this. If it comes to it, I would say this. If they want to change the number or vote the motion down, great, but I wouldn't get into taking the fence down now. That's something that's sort of outside of the scope of what's on the warrant, yeah. So they can modify the figure, vote it down, but I think that if the motion comes up to take the fence down, that's the
it's not all the way around, so it doesn't, we don't.
Yes, Ms. True.
I would just think that it might not be a real necessary thing during a hard year of a pandemic when we don't have enough money to stay in our houses.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Allison Long, Montpont Street. I walk by there and drive by there really frequently because my husband and I walk in the woods down the end of Lincoln. It's horrible. That fence is dreadful. It should have been replaced 10 years ago. And there are children all over the place. Why would we not give enough of a care about our children to try to keep our beach in a good, safe condition at half the price that was originally suggested? I don't understand that.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Ms. Milling.
Can I get do we know how much it would cost just to remove the fencing? Just to clean it up and not put a new one back up?
Tom, do we have a breakdown of that?
I did get a quote for that. I got 2 quotes to replace. One was $5,500, and that was the town going to take the fence down, and the company was going to come in and replace it.
Replace the whole fence?
Replace that, there's, I think,
section.
300 feet, that section, 300 feet.
300 feet.
The other article, the other proposal was, I can't remember, I think it was, they were going to take the whole thing down, and it was going to be about $7,500. They would take it down and put a new fence up.
Does that answer your question?
Well, no, because we don't know what the cost
article
is just
itself.
to take the fence down. But my next question is, and forgive me because I moved into town after the fence was originally there, does this fence serve a purpose? Like, what is the purpose of locking the gate to the beach parking lot? It's nowhere near the water, so we're not keeping anybody safe by corralling them in there. Like, what's the point of the fence?
Tom?
It's just a security purpose. It was there when I started this committee. I locked the gate after hours because I don't want everybody down there partying. There's no lights down there, okay? I go down there, I pick up needles and everything else.
No, but the fence doesn't.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Karen Faber. My question would be, why do we have to pay someone to take this down? When we have town workers here, and we probably have a Sawzall, that's all it takes. Manpower, we pay people in the town. Why are we gonna pay to have someone take this down? Just remove it.
Mr. Schindler, is this, your article here is repair and replace. It's not just taking it down, correct?
Right. Like I said, there was two proposals. One was, I believe it was for $5,400, and they were just going to put a new fence up. The highway department was going to take the fence down. The other proposal I got was for the $7,500. They were going to take the fence down and away and put up a new fence. They've also been told that I need to kind of move quickly on this because the material cost is going up substantially. When I was talking to one of the fence companies, Inline Fence, they said, you know, this is only a 10-day proposal. And after that, it's going to be jumping up 15, 20% because of our materials.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, the lady behind you.
If you take the
David,
fence down.
the lady behind you, yes.
Mr. Moderator, she told me to go ahead. She told me to go ahead, Mr. Moderator.
Well, then, can you take a seat, please, then, so I don't...
Who?
I thought you wanted to speak, my fault. Yes.
David Mazzio, 16 10th Ave. Tommy, if we're going to take the fence down, with the cost, you said it was $5,500, we take the fence down, and $75, they take the fence down and do it. Scrap metal's up right now, so have the highway department take the fence down, leave it down. You won't have to worry about costing any money. You guys will actually put some money in the kitty for fuel and other stuff, or cleaning up the beach.
Tom,
with the overgrown leaves and stuff like that, Mr. Mott.
That it was repair and replace, right, for the $7,500?
Yeah, repair and replace.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Winowitz.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about taking it down. This is an article about repair, replace. That's it. If you don't like the article, vote no. There is nothing on here about taking it down. That's all a moot point. People need to stick to the article because it's getting crazy.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Yes, ma'am, you have your hand up.
It's important that we repair and do things for security. There are multiple people that complain every summer, the last 4 years, that there are many people out on the lakes that don't have their recycling sticker. They're complaining about parking and other things. And now you want to take down the one thing they want to repair to help you, which is going to cause a greater problem to you in the future, to those that don't have their recycling stickers and that are out using your neighborhoods, making more congestion for that area for the residents to go in and out. So I don't think it's wise to take the security measure away. But I do have a question, Mr. Moderator, through you for Tom. I'm just curious if there's going to be any additional costs we may not know about from the Clean Water Act, conservation bylaws, and such, because we're extremely close to the water there. And I would hope that everybody's following the bylaws and the Clean Water Acts in town.
Tom.
Yes, I've talked to conservation. They're like, yeah, go ahead. Mr. Moderator, can I just take this off the floor and forget it? Pass over? Can I do that?
It's certainly,
can I do that?
It's certainly your prerogative.
Okay, let's pass over. Pass over it.
Okay,
I'll leave the digital fence up there.
I have a motion on the floor to pass over Article 49 in a second. Did I hear a second? Okay, all those in favor of passing over Article 49, please indicate a yes vote by raising your green card. And all those opposed, please raise your red card. It's pretty even. I have pretty even. Your call.
It's your call. Did it pass or not? It's your call. Motion passes or not. It didn't pass over the motion. This was but in any case, the first question.
Thank you.
All right, the motion to pass over has failed, so we will be voting on...
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I move the
Mr.
question. I move the question.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for Article 49. And do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to all those in favor of Article 49, please indicate by raising your green card. And all those opposed, please indicate by raising your red card. The article passes.
Article 53.
53.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I move the town approve Article 53 as printed in the warrant with the following changes in Section A1 from the firm and FIS report are incorporated herein by reference and are on file with the town clerk, planning board, and building commissioner. 2, the firm and FIS report are incorporated herein by reference and are on file with the town clerk, planning board, conservation commission, and building inspector. And from further defined by Plymouth County Flood Insurance Study, FIS report. 2, further defined by the FIS report. From these maps, as well as the accompanying Town of Halifax, Plymouth County Flood Insurance Study. 2, these maps, as well as the accompanying FIS.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. With the recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Okay, yes. Oh, I also been told I need a planning board recommendation. Yes, your name, please, and address.
Amy Troop, 10 Hillside Ave, the planning board member, and the planning board did recommend.
Thank you very much. Mr. Andrews, would you like to address this?
Sure. So the floodplain maps changed along with the accompanying language with them, and in order to receive floodplain insurance from the federal government, the town is required to make these changes to the town's bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Yes, sir. I'll need your name and address, sir.
Bob McCarthy, 610 Montponset. I just want to make sure with this floodplain change, that isn't going to be like Marshfield went through a few years ago and everyone's house insurance just go through the roof. You know, they went and got nailed with that, what, 5 years ago or so? Just want to make sure there's no changes there.
Mr. Andrews?
I believe the planning board reviewed this more. I believe the planning board would be a better recommendation.
Okay. Ms. True?
So there are changes in the flood maps, but there aren't many, and there weren't a lot in your area. I specifically looked at your area. But the things that I like about it is it's going to make it harder to give a variance in water areas. So that was definitely explained in length, and you can look at the planning board meeting. I'll post it on Halifax Locals tomorrow, the exact planning board meeting that we discussed this, so you can learn about it from the source.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, question I got is, if I got this right, is the federal government is basically telling us that if we don't pass this, anybody in those flood zones can no longer get insurance, but if we pass it, their rates are going to go through the roof, correct? With a simplification?
I'll see if I can find out. Ms. Troop?
No, the way it was explained is it's just recommended changes to the flood zone because of the maps, and they go over the maps and look at the differences in the ground level, the groundwater level. His question is back to see if it would affect us getting flood insurance or not, and I don't know if there's an insurance expert in the room, but
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
from my understanding, if we don't approve these changes to the flood maps, then the residents will not be able to get flood insurance if it's required, which is, this issue was supposed to be voted on last year, but because of the pandemic, the federal government changed the regulations to allow us an additional year, but this was supposed to go into effect last year.
Any other discussions? Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask how many places in town are affected by flooding? That this would be an issue?
I'll see if I can find out.
there are FEMA flood zones in between Franklin and Hayward, and then there's a river that crosses over South Street and also Hayward, and so then all the woods between Hayward and East Street, and then there's other areas around town like aquifer protection zones and some areas on the lake. Your specific area, you're probably at an elevation that you'd be okay, but there are some houses that are lakefront that do have the need for flood insurance. I don't, that gets into like a lot of variations. For instance, some people might own their homes for a long time and not have a mortgage, so they don't have it, or, you know, all kinds of things like that.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
If anyone goes to get a mortgage and this isn't passed, they won't get it on those properties. This is something that has to be passed. It's set out by FEMA. FEMA sets these, and we have to adopt it. Otherwise, people won't be able to buy these houses.
Any other comments or further discussion? Okay, it's my understanding that where it's a chapter zoning bylaw change, this article will have to pass by a 2/3 vote. Have I got that correct?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. So, seeing no indication of further discussion on Article 53, all those in favor, please raise your green card. All those opposed, please raise your red card. Motion passes.
46.
46. By the Board of Selectmen.
46, right? Yeah. Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure about something. The funnies that's on here. Sandy? I move the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $50,000 to conduct a fraud risk assessment per the recommendation of the town auditors.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 46. Someone from the board like to
Do you want the
comment?
Finance Committee recommendation?
I'm sorry?
The Finance Committee?
Oh,
Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. Yes, Mr. Andrews, did you want to address this?
This is Mr. Garen's.
Oh, Mr. Garen, I'm sorry.
It's risk assessment is fraud or computer fraud or any particular agency in town which collects money that in fact the money is turned over. There's been problems in several of the towns surrounding us where people have absconded with money because of fees that are paid and never registered. So we want to do a risk assessment to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row and correct.
It's 50,000. Thank you.
Mr. Bolger has his hand up.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Bolger, Brandeis Circle. So this $50,000 is just to have somebody come in, look at what our systems are and tell us we're probably at risk, which I think probably 90% of the towns in this state are. But as I read it, it doesn't do anything to correct any of the problems that we may have. This is just somebody to say we got a problem, right?
It would identify.
I'll try to find out for you. Yes, sir.
It would identify the procedures and protocols that we need to get changed. You're correct in terms of the implementation. If we needed to spend money on it, we'd have to come back to the town meeting at some future date. But without knowing what's wrong, you can't come back to the town meeting to correct the problem. So first identify the problems, then come back if necessary to spend money to correct them.
Any other questions or further discussion? Seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 46. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your green card. All those opposed, please raise your red card. Article passes.
35.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $29,000 to replace the windows at Pope's Tavern.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Article 36. Mr. Joy, would you like to address this article?
Jerry Joy, Christmas Tree Lane. The windows at the Pope's Tavern are similar to the windows in the town hall. They're old, they're leaking, they're not energy efficient, wind blows through them, and it's the same conditions. The replacements are going to be typical as to what is going to be used at the town hall. It's been approved by the Halifax Historical Commission. They're energy efficient, and there's a total of 24 windows.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed the Finance Committee's recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further discussion, questions? Yes, sir.
Jeff Bolger, Brandeis Circle. I just want to know how much more money are we going to spend on this sinkhole called Pope's Tavern? I mean, we must have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 10 years on this.
So
and I heard the other...
Pope's Tavern isn't included in the article.
And I've heard from somebody that the fire chief has now limited the occupancy of Pope's Tavern when it's fully occupied after the pandemic to just 15 people. That's, you know, spending all this money on a building that has no business being a senior center. Seems to be a waste of money.
The article addresses the alarm systems in the town hall, the highway department.
Bert, you're on the wrong article. It's Pope's Tavern, Article 35.
Does it say Pope's Tavern?
Which article? 36, right? 35 or 36?
My bad. I'm reading 36. I apologize.
I know, they're talking about windows.
Any further discussion?
Which one are we doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly Kavicki, Plymouth Street. Mr. Moderator, through you, I'd like an answer from the fire chief if the rumor and information we just heard on town meeting floor is true? And second, I have a question through you, Mr. Moderator. I know Mr. Andrews was a part of the committee when it was going on before the pandemic. The committee to potentially see if we're going to put highway, police, and fire all together in one, Gordon, is that committee going to come forward again? Yeah. Or start up anytime soon?
Thank you.
I can, Bert?
Yes.
So there is a buildings, needs, and facilities subcommittee that was formed by the Board of Selectmen. We are looking at a short-term, mid, and long-term solution to issues in the town. The committee went and toured all the buildings in town. We created a list of issues that we saw with each building. Moving forward with that committee, the committee had asked the Board of Selectmen to approve money to do a schematic drawing of the museum so that we can move forward with a possible addition at the museum, which is the old library building, to move the senior center to there, doing an addition of a kitchen, new bathrooms, and an elevator in the back to try to square off the building. That space is usable there. So there is a possible solution there. There's ideas to look into whether or not we can do a community build to lower the cost, whether or not we can team with the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department to lower the cost. We are looking at alternatives for a senior center, but we know that we have to maintain the buildings that we have, because if we don't maintain them, we're going to cost even more money down the line. And I agree with the former speaker who talked about how much money we've dumped into that building. I totally agree, but we don't have a solution right now. We've spent thousands of dollars on plans over the years. We haven't moved forward with any of those items. We are working on a solution to propose at a future town meeting. We are not there yet.
Okay, thank you, sir. Chief, do you have something you'd like to address?
Jason Veras, Fire Chief. Mr. Moderator, through you to the previous speaker, just to answer their question, I did not change the occupancy of Pope's Tavern. The building official determines the occupancy. It hasn't been changed. What we did do is make a recommendation that a room on the second floor was not to be used because there was water coming into the building and the ceiling was sagging, and we were afraid that if it continued, it could potentially collapse on the portion of the ceiling. So, but to answer the question, we did not change the occupancy of the building.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm just a little concerned. So now the roof is leaking, but we're going to do the windows before the roof.
Mr. Moderator?
We've done the roof?
We replaced the roof this spring.
Awesome.
Mr. Andrews, did you have I answered. Oh, okay. Asked and answered. Thank you. Mr. True, yes.
So fixing the roof, did that open up the second floor?
I'll find out. Chief?
No.
So I believe the suggestion was that it was employees only on the second floor. We have other issues there with the stairway and the railings and the egress coming down.
Thank you, sir. Mr. True?
That makes sense for sure. So the windows, are we sure we're not going to add on to it where we should take on that project? What if we're going to rip off the back and go off and use any of the plans in the future? Should we hold for a second, or that's just a thought?
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Ms. Gallant, yes.
Hi, Jean Gallant, Cranberry Drive. So the, oh God, I broke the microphone, that's really great. So the Building and Facility Needs Committee, we're talking about moving all the museum pieces to Pope's Tavern and hopefully kind of use that as a space for all the historical stuff that we have. We had a member of the Historical Society come, and I think I would like to see something like that. That building, actually, I know it's a sinkhole right now, but it does have some really good historical value to it. And if you read the Town of Halifax book, you can find, you know, they nominated during the Republican convention John Quincy Adams right in that book. So, you know, I was surprised at how much historical value that has. So is anybody else interested? I don't know. Is anybody going to come from near and far to see that? But I will, so I like that building.
Thank you. Any other further discussion or comments? All right, seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 35. All those in favor, please raise your green cards. All those opposed, please raise your red cards. The article passes.
Article 20.
By the Treasurer Collector.
I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $6,850 to fund an actuarial study of town share of OPEB, which will allow the town to meet the requirements of GASB 75.
45. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and second to accept Article 20. Do I have the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. Mrs. Aducci, would you like to speak to your article?
So this is required every 2 years as part of the town's annual audit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments, discussions? Ms. Troop?
Sorry, did you say 75? Because in the warrant here it says 45.
No.
Mrs. Aducci, can you place the mic in?
It was updated and it's now at GASB 75.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Yes, sir. Oh, you're voting. So I thought you had it. Okay, we have a motion and a second to on Article 20. All those in favor, please raise your green card in favor. All those opposed, please raise your red card. Motion passes unanimous.
Article 36, 36.
36, Municipal and School Building Committee. Mr. Joy, would you like to present your article, please?
Bert?
Yes, I was waiting for him. I'm sorry.
36, right?
Yeah, 36.
Troy needs to read.
Mr. Moderator,
Hold on, Jerry, my fault. Yes, Mr. Garin.
I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $17,500 to upgrade alarm systems at the town hall, the highway barn, and the water department recycling center.
Second.
And a second. Motion and a second. Yes, Mr. Joy, would you like
Finance Committee?
Oh, Mr. Garin.
Finance Committee?
Oh, yes, Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joy, could you tell us a little about...
Jerry Joy, Christmas Tree Lane. I'm Building and Maintenance Committee. Right now, there's the control panels in the town hall, recycling center, and the highway department are outdated. In other words, they're not making parts for them anymore. Normally, a control panel, when the company manufactures it, they give it 10 years. So we're way beyond that 10-year time frame for making parts. Right now, the systems are working, but if we don't do something and a part fails, again, maybe it's the building's on fire, we won't get a report. Or if someone breaks in, we won't get a report. So we need to replace the control panels. All 3 panels will have to be replaced and updated to different standards of today.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any discussion, comments regarding Article 36? Yes, sir.
John Mado, Walnut Street. He's labeling this as alarm systems. Are they fire alarms, smoke and fire alarm detection, or burglar alarm?
Mr. Joy?
All three.
All three. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
So are you upgrading all devices or just panels?
Just the panels. The devices are compatible with the new panels.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Just Jeff Bolger, Brandeis Circle. Just kind of a related question. Up until a couple of weeks ago, the recycling center had always been secured with off hours with a locked chain link gate. If we're so concerned about the security of our facilities, how come they took all the gates down?
Mr. Haywood?
All we did was move the gates to the middle of the building. You still can't get to the back of it. That's all we did, was move the fence back.
So if I understand it correctly, from the building back is still fenced in and secured?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Questions? Seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 36. All those in favor, please raise your green card. All those opposed, please raise your red card. Article passes.
29.
Opposed by the Board of Selectmen. Troy, would you like to address this one?
Yes, just a second, please. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $3,500 to support South Shore Resource and Adequacy Center for Domestic Violence Intervention and Prevention Services for its residents.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gowan, would you like to speak to the article?
Over the past 30 years, they've served the town faithfully, and I'm sure there are some residents that have used their services and would like to continue supporting them so they can help those that can't afford it.
Any discussion, questions, comments?
Finance Committee?
Seeing no indication of discussion.
Finance Committee.
I'm sorry? Yes. What did I miss? Oh, they already gave you it. Okay. They gave you it.
I didn't hear it. I apologize.
The moderator didn't mess up.
You tell your wife that.
Okay. Seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 29. All those in favor, please indicate by your green card, and all those opposed, your red card, please. Article passes.
21.
21. Posed by the Halifax Elementary. Summer, would you like to?
Sure would. I move that the town vote to transfer from the undesignated fund balance the sum of $25,000 to seal cracks, reseal, and line the parking lot at the Halifax Elementary School.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Can we, would you like to speak to the article there, Summer, please?
Sure. Well, you all drove in here and you saw what kind of shape the parking lot's in, so it's pretty self-explanatory, but I will break it down for you. To apply crack fill to the allotted areas is $7,500. Seal coat the parking lot is $14,400, and to line stripe the parking lot is $2,800. How's that for you?
Okay. Any questions, comments, or discussion?
Oh, and there's a 2-year guarantee on the work.
2-year guarantee. Thank you. Seeing no indication of discussion on Article 21, all those in favor, please indicate by raising the green card, and all those opposed, please raise the red card. Article passes.
Article 30.
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator? We ask that Article 30 be tabled until the end, please.
Would you like to speak to Article 30?
Didn't hear what you
Finance
said.
Committee over
Over here? Finance
Sorry?
Committee?
Finance Committee asks that the Article 30 be tabled until the end of the meeting, please.
Can't hear him.
Can you
Yeah,
table
I
it
couldn't
till the
hear you
end?
either. Can you-
Speak to the mic,
Sorry.
please.
You gotta get like right on the mic.
Can you, Finance Committee asks if we could table Article 30 until the end of the meeting, please.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to move in a second.
Well, due to the fact that we're not sure how much money will be left after all the other articles are passed, we're looking forward to putting the money in the stabilization fund.
I can't hear anything.
The motion to table is to put the article to the end of town meeting so the town can act on what's left in undesignated fund to move into the stabilization fund.
And there's a second.
Second.
All right, so the motion.
Take a vote. Table it.
We have a motion to table Article 30. All those in favor, please indicate by the green. All those opposed, please indicate by the red card. Passes to table.
Article 24.
Article 24, yes, Summer.
I don't know, oh, there we go. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $23,000 to install and extend the pedestrian pathways from and around the Halifax Elementary School, including but not limited to improving ADA access to areas of the Halifax Elementary School property.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Accept Article 24. Recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Okay, Summer, would you like to speak to the article, please?
Sure. So this, as I just mentioned, will connect all the exits of the building and create a pathway around the entire building. And I can break it down for you, just like I did the last one. So it'll remove all the grass and loam that's currently around the building. It'll install sidewalks. It'll install asphalt. And in the front parking lot here, it'll install asphalt berming for the islands with the lampposts.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, questions, or comments? Okay, seeing no indication of discussion on Article 24. All those in favor, passing Article 24, please hold up your green cards. All those opposed, please hold up your red cards. The article passes.
Article 43.
Article 23.
43.
Oh,
43.
43, my bad. 43, proposed from the Holmes Public Library. Yes, Mrs. Gallant.
Jean Gallant, Library Director. I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $2,500 to purchase 3 new computers at the Holmes Public Library, 2 for the public and 1 for the staff.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept Article 43. Recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Mrs. Glenn, would you like to speak to your article, please?
Sure. So currently we have 18 computers, both for the staff and for the public use. And a few years ago, the Finance Committee recommended that we put those on a rotating basis. Last year, because of the pandemic, I didn't buy any new computers. So currently we still have 6 computers running on Windows 7, 3 staff and 3 public. So this is going to replace 3 this year and hopefully 3 next year.
Thank you. Any discussion, comments, or questions? Seeing no indication of discussion, all those in favor of Article 43 indicate by your green cards. And all those opposed, please raise your red cards. Article passes.
Article 55.
Mr. Andrews.
Mr. Moderator, Gordon C. Andrews, 244 Elm Street. I move that the town vote to approve Article 55 as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Accept Article 55, recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee does not recommend.
Mr. Andrews, would you like to speak to your article?
Yes, this article would vote to put on, after authorization from the general court, to expand the board from 3 selectmen to 5. It would then take a town election vote to accept that, and then vote in the additional 2 members. I believe this is needed for the town so that we have a larger voice at the table. I think you can see tonight at town meeting, there's a number of questions that are asked that the residents don't feel like that they're not hearing at the Board of Selectmen, or they're not seeing the discussion take place. I think expanding the board, adding more people on, would allow more questions to be asked, and it would allow the number of duties that need to be shared for the number of liaisons, the number of meetings that everyone should be attending, to be shared a little more equally, and make each selectman's ability to make those meetings and have an impact.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions, comments? Yes, please. Your name and your address, please.
I'm Candace Sniffen from Harvard Street, and I just have to express some concerns about this article. First of all, I don't understand the reason. Before this, not counting this election we just had, but 8 of the last 10 years, the selectman race was uncontested. So it doesn't make sense to me that we would increase the size of a board that we have trouble getting people to even want to be on. All 3, as of last week, all 3 of the selectmen had at some point or another been elected with no opponent. I understand the need, and I very definitely understand that selectmen are required to be on subcommittees and attend a lot of meetings, but if you look at this, one of our selectmen is also on the Silver Lake Regional School Committee, is also on the Halifax Elementary School Committee. I will tell you that those are workload jobs just like the Board of Selectmen. So I would suggest, I always felt the selectmen, and I still feel, are our town's CEOs. And they should be doing the work of the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town. I also feel another selectman was an assessor. I will say that I was a selectman years ago, and it would have never crossed my mind to be on these other boards. And we didn't have a town administrator at that time. There is a lot of work, but all of these boards require a lot of work. I'm not sure the way to address it is to just add more people to the Board of Selectmen. I also think that there's a cost involved that the town may or may not be aware of, besides the salary. 2 additional selectmen would add $5,000. In the scheme of things, that's not a lot of money, but you may not know that elected officials who receive a salary, like the selectmen and some of our other assessors, are eligible to get health insurance through the town. And the town has to, I believe by law, pay 50% of their health insurance. So if they choose to do that, they have the right to do that. I don't know how many are, I don't know how many would, but there is, I don't have to tell you that health insurance is not cheap. And 50% for 2 people is not cheap. So I guess what I would say is that there's no indication that I can see that this board needs to be expanded to 5. I would suggest before we do that, we look at the workload and we look at the responsibilities, and maybe they shouldn't be on other committees, and we consider the cost. I don't see any reason to expand this board to 5 members.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly Kavicki, Plymouth Street. This is the best article that's been on a town warrant since I've been in town since 2001. It brings transparency to the town, and we re-elect Troy because Troy does a great job. We didn't re-elect Mr. Milius because the voters didn't feel he was doing a great job. So, and Mr. Andrews is here. Yes, he's very busy, but he's allowed by law. It is his civil right to be able to serve on different boards. Expanding the board simply brings transparency. It gives them more opportunity. I mean, we have a Board of Health Conservation, a town administrator, and a Board of Selectmen, and the only one that was on an extremely important public session hearings on May 3rd was Ashley, our new selectman, because everybody in this town is overwhelmed and overworked. We're one of the few towns that does not have a 5-member board in all of our departments. What happens when a 3-member board has a conflict of interest and it's more than one that has a conflict of interest? How do you pass that off if 2 people have to reaccuse themselves and we only have 1? They can't vote if there's only 1 that does not have a conflict of interest. If we don't expand the boards, and it's not only selectmen, it should be any 3-member board in the town, we're going to continue to have lawsuits. We're going to continue to have overworked people, and people are not going to want to step up because it's the same old, same old. Change is needed, and this is a great article, and thank you for proposing it.
Yes, ma'am.
Karen Favor, I also agree with this article that it's very important. A previous speaker stated that there's no one that's going to run for these positions. People didn't run for the positions previously, but there's a lot more people right now that are actively seeking to be able to be on boards because they don't like what's going on with the town. I really feel it's very important that we do add the 2 extra people. I was on the Finance Committee. There's many a times people are out, and that you don't have the quorum to vote, or that you have someone that recuses himself as well. And I really believe it's very important to support this article. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Barbara Gaynor, private resident at the moment, 17 Pemmican Way. I have lived in this town for 41 years. I have never felt a more contentious election in this town ever. It was uncalled for, it was unnecessary. I think the selectmen that we have had, 3-member board, works just fine. Everybody who is on the boards do their best. They're volunteers. Some of us are paid officials, but we do the best that we can. And lately, every one of us has been torn down. We're not doing our job. We're conflict of interest. There's all sorts of issues, this, that, and the other thing. I really think everyone needs to just cool down, take a step. We just had a new election. Let the new people get into their positions. Let the town run. It runs very well. For those of us who work in it and those of us who live in it and pay attention, I think it works very well, and I don't think this article should go forward. Thank you, and I would like to thank you all for my 12 years as elected town clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, I just want to say that I think I question why we would want 2 more people when we're not even electing people because we have people running unopposed. I think one of my concerns is, do these people have 2 people that they want to bring in and they can tell them you probably won't have any opposition and we're going to have 5 selectmen that we pick? I mean, I have no idea what the rationale would be for running for an office that we know takes a lot of time, spreading ourselves thin, and then coming back and saying we need more help. And I echo everything that Barbara just said, and she's done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sniffen. Yes, ma'am.
Allison Long on Ponza Street. I oppose the expansion of the board. I have a feeling it'll go through anyway, but I strongly feel that we have a good working system. Our taxes are in many cases lower than places elsewhere, and yet we take care of most of the things that we need to take care of. Our elections are clean. All the other sorts of things that we're supposed to do, people are working hard to do. And I've been here for, let's see, my daughter is 47 now, so 48 years. This is a good system, and I don't think at this point we need to expand it. We do have, after all, a whatever you call it, a town manager who does a great deal of that work. So on that, that's all.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Paula Hatch, Oak Place. I have a question and then a couple of comments. My question is, I think I've been in town almost 25 years now, and it's been a board of 3. It's probably been a board of 3 for a lot longer than that. How has the population of the town changed since we've had a board of 3? And then my comments are, I have no reservations about increasing the number of seats for the Board of Selectmen. The complexity of the issues we face as a town has, just exponentially increased the number of issues and the complexity. 5 people will bring more diverse opinions and thoughts and just enhance I think the quality of the board, not just allocating time to different things, having more people to allocate time. I think the quality of the Board of Selectmen will increase. And what are we afraid of? It's a democratic society. Anybody can run for these positions. I have no fear whatsoever of increasing the size of that board.
Thank you. Maybe I'll try. Sandy, would you have an answer for the woman as far as our population goes? She had a comment of what's our population now as opposed to...
Bert?
Bert.
The problem with that question is that the town probably, and if Susan Basile was here, I'd be asking her, but the town was probably started with 3 selectmen more than 250 years ago. And the town obviously only had a few people at that time, in terms of hundreds. During the last 20 years, the population has gone up probably about 300 people from 7,500 back in 2020 to about 7,800. At least we'll get the official numbers in August. But the rough estimate right now is it's in the last 20 years gone from 7,500 to about 7,800. Obviously, during the decades and during the centuries, we've moved from hundreds to thousands, but trying to compare this town 250 years ago to today would be difficult.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. Mr. Andrews?
Just this would bring this, if town meeting votes to approve this would bring this to a town meeting election ballot. So the town meeting would still have, the town election would still have to take place and authorize the expansion of 2 more members. This just allows that process to go forward.
That's right.
That's accurate.
Thank you.
This vote would cause the town to ask its legislators to file special legislation to authorize the vote to make the election. It could be, you know, a couple of years down the road, but in any case, this is the first of 3 steps.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Kennedy, 527 Thompson Street. I just wanted to know which other towns or how many other towns with our population have more than 3 Board of Selectmen members?
Mr. Moderator?
Sorry.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Moderator, over there.
Yes, sir.
Hi, we have some limited data on that. It's not complete, but we looked at 7 other towns, and the break point seems to be between 9 and 10,000 population. That towns increase to 5. So based on the small sample of data that we have, towns our size are typically 3.
Any other comments, questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth McEwen. I'm at 70 Highland Circle. I have a question and a couple of comments. One, there was a discussion about the time commitment that's involved, and there's a lot that the selectmen have to do. So I was curious, how does that compare to the towns? So regardless of the number of selectmen, do you have any idea on the time commitment that they have to put in versus what you guys are having to commit to? The other comments around corruption, as much as I hate corruption, I'm just not sure that the number of people would impact that, because you can have corruption with 1 people or none with 10. So I'm not sure about that. The other comment is that about diversity. I am a huge fan of getting different viewpoints, and I think we saw a lot of that with the election, which is fantastic. But I think the concern, and I think this was mentioned earlier, is that we already had a number of positions on the ballot where there was nobody running. And I think that if we do want people to vote and have their voice heard and get people in these positions and have a wide range of people in them, that's one thing. But if we don't have people running, then if somebody runs unopposed, it's not really people voting them in. Anybody can just step up, so it's not really necessarily getting diverse viewpoints or having other people get voted in. So that was all. Do you guys, I don't know, the question originally was the time commitment that, how that compares. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try to find Mr. Andrews. You address that?
Gordon Andrews, 244 Elm Street. I believe the time commitment depends on the person. You know, at the positions that I've been in this past year, I've been going to the school committee, I've been going to Silver Lake School Committee, and I'm going to the Halifax Selectmen's meetings. I'm also attending the Finance Committee meetings. I've attended the Zoning Board meetings. It's what you put into it. But if we're going to have a liaison from the Board of Selectmen showing up to all these meetings, if I'm still going to be a liaison to those committees, I'm still going to have the same time commitment. And I just think that the town is better served when you have more people that can attend these meetings. There's a number of issues that are brought up at every meeting. I try to bring back a viewpoint from each meeting of what I think is best for the town. It doesn't necessarily mean that the information I'm bringing back is what everybody agrees with. But if you had the ability to have more people attend these meetings to get the information and bring it back, I think the town is better served. The school committee has 5 members on it. There was a competitive race for those seats. I think you'll see a competitive race for the Board of Selectmen if you open it up. I just think the town needs to change. We need to move forward and add more voices.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Gordon Laws, Highland Circle. Could you just clarify, if this passes, what are the next steps and the approximate timeline of those steps?
So I believe, as Attorney Mayo previously mentioned, it has to go through the legislature. The legislature has to enact a special legislation to allow the town to move forward with the next step. So depending upon how fast they move forward with this, it is all dependent on that. I would expect that they could get it done in this upcoming legislative year, and we could vote on it next May, but there's no guarantee. This is just the first step.
Thank you. Yes, Amy.
Speaking from experience and hearing others in the experience, the reason that we don't fill our boards is intimidation. And that, I know, is very scary to deal with. And there's a lot of others that have experienced the same thing that I have. And also, I would say that there's a speaker tonight that last year was moving to have the beautification committee go to 7 seats from 5.
Any other discussions or comments?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Mr. Garin? Mr. Garin?
Yes.
I really don't care what the number is, whether it's 4 or 5 or whatever. The decisions that are made at the board, the 3-member board, have been the best that we can make for the town over the past 31 years. I have sat on this board with different individuals, and they've all had one thing in common, and that's hopefully to do what's good for the town. So whether you decide to increase it or not, if I'm still here, it'd be great. But I'm not in favor of the expansion.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you have the answer to this or not, but how many times did someone have to recuse themselves on the board, and then it only left 2 members to make a decision for all of us?
There's been a number of times that I've had to recuse myself, whether or not I'm during the COVID issue. I recused myself when I was bringing things forward as a member of as the school committee chairman. I recused myself. If I was bringing it forward to the Board of Selectmen as a member of Silver Lake, I recused myself. I recused myself from all the payroll for 4 different departments. Since one of the suits was filed, I've recused myself from all of the executive sessions that have to do with the lawsuits. I've recused myself from all of those things.
Yes, ma'am.
I know it's late and we all want to go home, so
I can't hear you. Can you move a little closer?
I said I know everyone wants to go home, so I apologize for keep getting up. But the next step to this, if the legislature does it, is going to the polls. How many more people go to the polls than town meeting? Let's just pass it through, and if the people of this town that go to the polls want it, they'll fill in their little yes box, and if they don't want it, they'll fill in their little no box, and let the polls say. There are so many less of us here in town that go out to vote that I don't think it's fair that we at town meeting decided for everyone in town when it can still be put to rest at the poll.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions? Seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 55. 55. All those in favor of Article 55, please raise your green card. All those opposed, please raise your red card. Article fails. All right, one last one. Believe it or not, we have to revisit number 30. As proposed by the Finance Committee.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer.
Mr. Moderator, I would like to remove Article 30 from the table.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, thank you. Recommendation of the Finance Committee.
We recommend.
Okay, sir, would you like to speak to your article?
Sure. So are we making the motion now? Now that we've taken it off the table, put it back on the table?
Can you please get to the mic? We cannot hear you back here.
Having very difficult hearing you. Can you push your mic a little closer?
Yeah.
Please? Thanks.
So I move that the town vote to transfer from undesignated fund balance the sum of $300,000 to be added to the general stabilization fund.
Okay, and some detail on that, sir? You have any?
So $300,000 is the buffer that we have traditionally tried to maintain in the town budget in the stabilization fund. This year, as we went through the budgetary process, it was as low at one point as 150. And earlier this evening, the town accountant informed us that it was about 305. At this point, she advises that we are at the $300,000 buffer that we typically keep in the stabilization fund. So we've moved to keep that amount in the stabilization fund for this year.
Okay, is there a recommended amount of money on that?
$300,000.
$300,000. Thank you. Any discussion? Ms. Troop?
I have a question. Is that going to continue to raise our taxes, or what? Thank you, Sandy.
Sandy, can you have Angie, please?
Moving into, the money that we're moving into stabilization is from undesignated fund balance. So that's the money that we were certified last year to spend towards our capital items. It is not money that we will be taxing. We still have the $300,000 buffer, approximately, of untaxed money, but this money is money that we sometimes call free cash, even though it's not free and it's not cash. But we've been moving all our capital articles out of undesignated fund balance. And we had over $1,500,000 in that undesignated fund balance. Rather than letting that just disappear at the end of the year, we wanted to put it into the stabilization account so that we could use it towards articles if we need it next year or later.
Does that answer your question?
It does. However, could we put it to the taxpayers so that it would lower our taxes?
Okay, any other questions, comments? Seeing no indication of any further discussion, all those in favor of, I'm sorry, missed you. Yes, ma'am.
How much money is left in that account now before we make this decision?
I'll find out for you. Mrs. Nolan?
The general stabilization account had $1,622,000 and some change in it at the beginning of this town meeting. We've just voted out $105,000 out of that. So we're looking at about $895,000 left in that. So if we added, we would be adding the 300 to that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes,
Mr. Moderator?
yes.
Through you to the town accountant, which article did we spend the $105,000 out of stabilization?
I'll find out, Mrs. Nolan.
That was the tennis courts? Or did that fail?
It didn't.
It failed?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Then we didn't spend it, then we still have that money in there. Sorry.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
So we could have moved to raise and appropriate that money, correct, and not had a 2/3 vote?
I can't hear you.
Yeah,
So on that article, we could have moved from undesignated funds, the 105,000, and not moved it out of stabilization?
Mr.
Okay,
Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Oh, yes, Charlie.
Since the article allows for all those sources, yes, the town meeting could vote to have done undesignated fund balance instead of stabilization. The idea of using the stabilization fund was that, as the town accountant has mentioned before, we put money in the stabilization account several years ago with the express purpose of using that to pay for capital projects at Silver Lake. So the idea was, having put that money in there into the stabilization fund, specifically for capital projects like tennis courts, that this was the appropriate place to take the money from to pay for that particular project. However, there's nothing preventing the town from having instead used undesignated fund balance.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay. Seeing no indication of further discussion, we'll vote on Article 30. All those in favor?
What happens to the $300,000 if it doesn't get moved to the general stabilization fund?
Mr. Moderator, or the town accountant can take it. Go ahead.
Mrs. Nolan.
So if the money does not go into the stabilization account, then we, at the end of the year, June 30th, that money goes away and has to be recertified. It would probably become part of the undesignated fund balance for the next town meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, I have a question. Can this article...
Can you move a little bit closer, please? I couldn't hear.
Mr. Moderator, I have a question. Can this article be amended to be used on our infrastructure? We have a problem with our drinking water and/or roads. We need money to improve our infrastructure, and time again, we're not doing enough to upkeep it. And I'd just like to see $300,000 be used for a good purpose and to start that process for our water department and highway departments.
Let me find out.
Mr. Moderator, the problem at this point is that the specific article on the warrant is to do only one thing, to put a sum of money in the stabilization fund. We talk about the four corners of an article, so we can't then, at this town meeting, take that money right at this moment and put it towards the water department infrastructure or highway. You could do that at a future meeting, taking it, if it goes in a stabilization fund, it's there so that if you have a future town meeting at some point, you can put an article on the warrant and say, I'd like to have the town take whatever number of dollars you want out of the stabilization fund for a particular purpose. Putting the money in there will make that available at some future town meeting for the purpose that you'd like to see it spent on.
Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Smelling.
You have to forgive me because I don't know if I'm going to do this right procedurally, but being an advocate and a member of the Silver Lake School Committee, I'm wondering if we can table the $105,000 out of this fund and motion to reconsider the tennis court article.
It's been sufficient.
How does that work?
Can you talk to Larry?
Yes. I'll find out for you.
Okay, thank you.
You can make a motion to reconsider.
The article for the tennis courts, correct?
Yes.
But I'm wondering, how do I take the $105,000 out of this sum of money and put it, what's the right way for me to do this?
I think going back to Charlie's point earlier, you can't, again, you have to stay within the four corners of an article. I don't think it's appropriate in this case. I think it would be out of order to try and transfer from this stabilization fund article into...
But the idea would be to go to, we could table this again, go back to the tennis court article in this, because it's still this town meeting. Someone could move the tennis court article back up. If the town meeting wanted to reconsider it, it could. I don't know if it takes a 2/3 vote tonight. And then someone could make a motion for either funding the tennis courts from stabilization or from undesignated fund balance.
Should be looking for either a motion to table or to change the amount from $300,000 to $195,000. Vote the stabilization fund here on an amended number. Vote, ask for reconsideration of that article. Vote the tennis article again. If that passes, the 105's gone. If it doesn't pass, then motion to reconsider this article and change it to change the total to 300,000.
So again, I can't hear very well. Can you repeat that?
So we could either motion to table this article right now, motion to reconsider, or she could make an amendment to change the amount from 300,000 to 195,000. That would leave 105,000 undesignated funds. Vote this article, vote a reconsideration, change the funding source, vote that article if it passes, from undesignated fund revenue. And if it passes, or if it doesn't, then vote to reconsider this one.
I think that sounds like an accurate plan.
Yeah. So would you recommend that I amend the amount, or that I motion to table with the intention of reconsidering the tennis court article?
I think table with the intent of reconsidering.
Okay, so I make a motion that we table the article in front of the body right now.
Second.
All right, there's a motion on the floor and a second to table Article 30. Correct? Yeah. Yes, any discussion on tabling the
Okay,
article?
since this is really entwined to two questions, I just want to clarify. I thought that the only people who could ask for reconsideration of something that had been decided at a different meeting would be people who opposed it before and now would like to change their minds. What?
All right, that's
Right. Well, what I can say is this. Right now, the motion is only to lay on the table, correct?
Yes, but the purpose of this has to do with the other.
I understand.
That's why I'm trying to clarify whether we can go back.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think you can lay it on the table now, and if somebody in opposition wanted to make the motion, they could do that, number one. But even beyond that, I don't think it's ever been our practice to require that somebody who was in opposition to it the first time make the motion.
No, they have, but yeah, many times, but I'll sit down. Thanks.
Vote. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'll make the motion because I opposed it, that it's legal.
I have no idea what you said. Karen, could you repeat that?
I couldn't hear what you said. I mean, we have a motion and a second on the floor right now.
Someone was concerned that someone that opposed the article needed to make the motion. I'm saying that I will make the motion. I opposed it originally for the tennis courts.
So she's solved that issue, but vote the table.
So I'll make the motion to reconsider, and then it's legal. Someone from the opposing side made the motion. That's me.
Okay, right now, I have a motion on the floor to table Article 30 with a second.
Mr.
I'm
Bolger
gonna
has
call-
his hand. Mr. Bolger has
Yes,
his
sir. Could you please come to the mic? I can't hear you.
This time to reconsider anything.
Reconsider anything. That's all I got out of that. You were talking on your way up. I couldn't hear you.
Jeff Bolger, Brandeis Circle.
Yes, sir.
I don't think we have a quorum here to reconsider anything at this time.
That's a challenge?
Is he asking you to check the quorum? That's your question?
Yes.
Ask him.
Ask him, and if we don't have a quorum, the meeting is going to be adjourned.
But
Yes, ask him.
All right, sir, your question is whether or not we have a quorum, so if we don't have a quorum, we're all done anyway.
That's what I was about to say. Mr. Moderator?
So you have to count.
May I ask a point of order question?
So did you request a quorum count?
No, I'm not requesting a quorum count. No, I'm asking a point of order question.
Sir, did you
Mr. Bolger.
request a quorum count? Yes, he did.
May I ask a question regarding that question to you, Mr. Moderator?
Certainly.
If we get a quorum count, we are not able to close town meeting, is that correct?
You should.
Because we can't vote on Article 30 that we have in front of us right now. We have a motion and a second on the floor, so therefore we can't finish town meeting if we do a quorum count right now. Correct?
Mr. Moderator, I believe you could do a point of order to put the town on notice that you want to reconsider that article, so that it's noted for the next night if the quorum's challenged. So somebody would have to get up from the mic and put the town on notice that they would ask to reconsider that article.
So that's the point.
Put the town on notice you want to reconsider. Put the town on notice.
All right, here's where it boils down to. If we do if we go ahead with the quorum count, and we do not have a quorum for tonight, what we're doing is postponing town meeting for another week to come back next week to vote on this same one question. So my question to you is, do you want a quorum count?
I have a better alternative. The proponent of reconsideration can withdraw that, and I will withdraw my quorum count.
Let me find out if I can do that. Nobody says it's Okay, here we go. What we have to do is we have to vote on the motion that's on the floor in a second. And that motion is to table Article 30. Now, after that vote, we can reconsider or, as you suggested also, but right now on the floor is Article 30 with a motion and a second to table that article. So I'm going to ask for a vote on Article 30. All those in favor of tabling Article 30, please raise your green cards for aye. And those opposed, please raise. The article passes to table Article 30.
No. So now there's a motion for reconsideration if it's going to be made.
Mr. Smelling, next question is to you. Did you have a motion for reconsideration?
Mrs. Favor has a motion.
Mrs. Favor, did you have a motion to reconsider? Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to dump it on you.
Yes, I made the motion, and I would respectfully ask that we let the townspeople make the decision and finish out a meeting. Thank you.
So there is a motion on the floor
Second.
to reconsider Article 30 and a second.
Not Article 30.
I thought
Tennis courts.
26, Article 26.
so. It's for Article 26.
Well, you have to motion to reconsider first. I seconded. Now you need a vote.
We have to vote it.
We have
To vote to see whether the town meeting wants to reconsider.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor and a second for reconsideration of Article number
26.
26.
For the tennis courts.
Majority,
26.
I believe.
All those in favor of reconsideration of Article 26, please signify by raising your green cards. All those against, please raise your red card. Fails.
Now you need to remove from the
I make a motion to pick up Article 30 again.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second for Article 30. Mr. Andrews, would you like to address that?
Article 30 was moved for $300,000. I move the question.
No, it's on the table.
Just vote.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second for Article 30. All those in favor of Article 30, please signify by raising your green card. All those opposed, please raise your red card. Motion passes.
Motion to dissolve.
Motion to dissolve town meeting. Dissolve. Done.
Yes, yes. There's a motion on the floor and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye with your green card. All those opposed.
Thank you.
Sorry for the delays.